dragon of the night wind. His breathing was calm and even. You couldn't see any inkling of fear and anxiety on his steady form. He had been training for the last 2 years for this, to become stronger, to kill. He had been put through the toughest training. He suffered broken bones, concussions, overwhelming blood loss. You name the injury, and he had it. But not once did a wound ever leave a scar. There was no mark of battle or proof that he was wounded. Only his skin, which had one scar, a scar that looked like it was hit by a lightning bolt and arced outwards. Ever since that time 2 years ago, he had become a changed person. He held no remorse, no hesitation. There was no shred of forgiveness in his heart. There was nothing in his heart. He doesn't remember what the trees looked like, nor the sky. He hasn't breathed in the scent of flowers in eternity. He couldn't remember what leaves sounded like when they flew in the wind. He hadn't felt the light of the sun beam down upon him. He couldn't remember what shape were the clouds. He wouldn't remember the feeling of glory the mountains gave off. He couldn't remember the faces of the people he called friends. No, family. The only thing he could remember from coming to the place he was at now was blood-red eyes and a chirping hand. The only thing he knew what was certain at the moment was the sweat on his body and the katana in his hand. The blonde, spiky-haired boy was now a man. At the age of 15, he could pass off as a 19-year-old. He was shirtless, and you could see all his rippling lean muscles, even through clothing. Muscle he had gained after intense training routines and exercises that many would believe he would die from such a workout. He had bloodied bandages on his hands, signs that he would hit something until the breaks. The attire he was wearing was black armored pants that covered his thighs and calves, black snug boots with claws on the toes and spiked spurs on the heel, and a light blue rope belt with the end hanging between his inner thigh and crotch ending below his knee. The katana's blade was silvery blue and the sword had no guard, just the way the blonde man liked it. Instead of the usual grip for katanas, this one was completely metal and had a gray grip, and to top it off, the sword had a long 23-inch blue rope that was connected to the hilt. He wondered how strong he really was. He had no one to compare his power to, except for the old man. But he was old, and he couldn't fight anymore. His withered body could barely walk 5 meters in a distance, so he really did have no one. Time was every shinobi's enemy. It was always ticking for everyone, even him. He believed he was extremely powerful, given the amount of chakra he has and the way he could use it. That was another thing he had improved, was his chakra control. Previously, he had quite horrendous chakra control, but that wasn't his fault. It's just he had too much chakra, and he couldn't really use like all of his classmates. He created Kage Bunshins every day until he worked his chakra control to perfection, whether it was by climbing waterfalls while balancing kunais on his fingers at the same time and simultaneously floating leaves all over his body. Some could think that was overkill, but he needed the training. His control was now flawless. He could utilize the Hokage's great strength if he wanted to, but he preferred quick, quiet kills over slamming your fist into someone's face and breaking their jaws at the same time. That's why he chose to take up Kenjutsu, because it complemented his wind nature perfectly. His skill in nature manipulation had taken the most leaps and bounds. He could now cut raging infernos 3 times his size in half with his wind nature. He could set fire to a waterfall and shatter tornadoes with his lightning. His Jinjutsu skill, which was impossible for him to do, was now possible thanks to his increased intelligence and control. He could now cast Jinjutsu without even using the Sharingan, and his Jinjutsus caused his victims to go brain dead and insane because of his vivid imagination. He could also perform medical ninjutsu, but his prowess in the art was nowhere near that of Tsunade's, but it was good enough so if he ever got into a bad situation, he could pull himself out of it. Along with all his other skills, his proficiency with weapons was quite admirable with the Sharingan. He could now aim and throw his kunai with pinpoint strikes. He tested this out by throwing a kunai at a fly that was buzzing around, bisecting it from its wings. But now he was testing out his reactions and senses. He was blindfolded. The only thing he could use was his hearing, smell, touch, and taste. He was facing multiple white zetsus, each armed to the bone with weapons such as swords, kunais, war fans, or just their fists. When they converged on him, he didn't flinch, he didn't even move a muscle. He channeled chakra flow into his katana that was designed to absorb the energy. Now his weapon was coated with wind, increasing its cutting power and lethality. One Zetsu came up behind him hoping to take him by surprise, but the scarred man turned around and bisected the artificial human. He blocked a flying kunai aimed at the side of his rib with the flat side of his katana. He grabbed it out of the air and threw at another Zetsu where it pierced the artificial human skull. He slashed another Zetsu, the wind on his katana making him more efficiently deadly. He sealed his katana on a portable seal on his right wrist. He went through a couple of hand signs and breathed in and shouted, Futon, Koryu Kisoku no Jutsu, wind release, great dragon breath technique. He blew out a massive head of a Japanese dragon made of lacerating wind that was 4 times his size. It flew at the Zetsu with overwhelming speed that it tore apart anything in its path until scraps were left. The Zetsu didn't have time to blink before they dropped to the ground, dead, bisecting cuts all over their bodies, and if they had blood, he was sure the ground would be coated with it. He unsealed his katana from his wrist and parried a kunai blow to the head from a brave Zetsu. He channeled wind chakra into his sword, which cut through the kunai like butter and killed the Zetsu. He heard movement to his left and kicked an unfortunate Zetsu in the face, impacting against his jaw and sending him flying back a few meters away, hitting other Zetsus like bowling pins. He heard multiple footsteps running at him, and like before, he sealed his katana away. He walked through a couple of hand signs and spoke the name of the jutsu. Katan, Ryuin Hoka no Jutsu, fire release, dragon flame release song technique, yelled the blonde man as he spat out a number of dragon-shaped fire heads flying at amazing speeds. The flame heads hit their marks as 5 Zetsus were incinerated by the hot fire. The man unsealed his katana and started to tear through the ranks of the Zetsus. His taijutsu was interesting as it appeared he was dancing when he was actually using agility mixed in with strength to deal powerful blows to his enemy. A Zetsu cried a battle shout as he went up to attack the man in blind rage at the sight of its brethren being slaughtered. But its surroundings changed all around it. It looked back behind itself to see all the other Zetsus, but now they looked like the blonde man with his eyes blindfolded, each holding a katana in hand. Enraged at the sight, the Zetsu started to ruthlessly attack its comrades, hoping to find out which was its real target. The Zetsu was sadly caught in a genjutsu where he was killing its friends as if they were the blonde himself. The man in a swift motion stabbed his katana in the ground where an unsuspecting Zetsu was trying to crawl his way over to him, but it was rewarded with a sword penetrating through its skull. The blonde then quickly went through some more hand signs. Raitun, Jabashi, lightning release, electromagnetic murder, yelled the man as he slammed his palms on the ground as an electric wave burst forth, shocking everyone that was caught before their nervous system was fried. They soon dropped to the ground, dead, with heavy thuds, and they were smoldering a little, and lightning was coursing around their bodies. The man picked up his katana again and started channeling his chakra into it. He stabbed a Zetsu behind him without even turning around. The clone of Hashirama had tried to sneak up on the man, but it had failed in its attempt. The blonde took the kunai that was in the Zetsu's hand, channeled some lighting chakra through it, and threw the knife at another Zetsu, penetrating into its skull and out the other end, and stabbing another in the head as it stopped its flight. The man couldn't see his handiwork, but he knew he scored some points in when the chakra signatures disappeared. 3 Zetsus jumped him from behind, where the 4 combatants were locked in close combat. The man dodged a kunai attack from a Zetsu and let it slide past him, where he kicked the Zetsu and killed it with a lighting-charged kunai he had unsealed from his wrist seals. He then killed the other 2 in a horizontal sweeping slash, where it bisected the 2 plant men in half as their torsos fell to the ground, leaking white ooze. A large group of Zetsus started to rush at the lone man with angry looks on their faces. The blonde, in retaliation, unsealed a Fuma shuriken from his left wrist. He channeled his wind chakra into the large shuriken, adding an extra set of rotating blades made of wind, and whispered shuriken kage bunshin no jutsu, shuriken shadow clone technique. He threw the 1 shuriken, which then became 100 shuriken, and all of them were wind-enhanced, where they cut through the Zetsus like sheep to the slaughter and like a butcher's knife to meat. The man turned and faced another wave of Zetsus. Sanzangarasu no jutsu, scattering thousand crows technique. said the man as 1,000 crows flew in from behind him. He could use this as the jutsu was just sitting around the place. The crows attacked the zetsus, distracting them from the real threat, which was the man and his katana. He passed by them within a blink of an eye, and all their heads were lopped off their shoulders with one fell swoop. One final party of zetsus rushed at the man, trying to end the battle that had been going on. The man sealed his katana and held out his right hand. Instantly, a Rasengan appeared until the man pumped wind chakra into it, which then became a spinning white shuriken with a light blue ball in the middle. "Futon, Rasen Shuriken," yelled the man as he hurled the shuriken at the zetsus. When it made contact, it expanded into a dome of small wind blades that attacked the zetsus on a molecular level and finally killing them as their chakra network was severed. The jutsu was more like a poison rather than a series of attacks. When the dome died down, a crater was left with the zetsus lying on the floor. The man didn't celebrate, he didn't cheer, he just stood there, unwavering, until he turned his attention to someone clapping. There was an extremely old man with a kusarigama in hand clapping as he watched the spectacle with a small smile on his face, but a dark look in his only visible eye. "Very good, very good," praised the man who was unfazed by all the deaths. "You have come far. Every one of those zetsus were at least high chunin level, and yet you made them look like academy students. No one can dispute your power. Your strength rivals my own back when I was young and at my prime, but you still require more refinement as you are still not as strong as me. You're at least 2/3 of my power back when I was in my prime. I did say you rivaled me," said the man with a sickly smirk. "And you didn't even use your Sharingan against them. Even more impressive." The blond man removed the cloth around his eyes, revealing a blood-red pair of fully matured Sharingan, which could probably kill someone just by looking at them. However, they were not his eyes. Those eyes were the eyes the old man had. His original pair before they were transplanted for another pair, but he passed his own eyes to the young man, and in return Blonde gave his own to Parched Man. He had spiky, sun-kissed, silky blonde hair with chin-length strands that framed the sides of his face where his sideburns were supposed to be, and he had a few strands that fell between his eyes and parted at the bridge of his nose. Just imagine Danai Ichigo hair, but yellow in color. And he had a low, spiky ponytail, which was wrapped halfway with top bandages. Over time, his hair had become less wild and untamed and became smooth and silken, losing some of the spike to his hair. He was also 5'9" in height instead of the midget height of 4'11". However, the man used to have whisker-like marks on his cheeks, but they were gone, revealing nothing. "The Sharingan is merely a tool. Just having it doesn't make me powerful. Unless I train my other skills, then there's no point in using the Sharingan in battle if I get killed," stated the person blankly as he stared at the old man. "Quite right, Naruto." The old man then started having coughing fits and brought a hand to his mouth and coughed blood into his palm. The 15-year-old who could pass off as an adult was slightly worried for his sensei, even though he didn't show it. He walked slowly up to his master and stood before him. "You shouldn't overexert yourself with your heavy breathing, Madara Sensei," said Naruto emotionlessly as he stood before the shinobi legend. "You will be in a similar situation when it is your time," said Madara as he finished his coughing and glared a little at the blonde. The legendary Uchiha was now weak. He could no longer perform the abilities and techniques he had in life, but he was able to raise Naruto to suit his needs and continue his plans. But then there was the problem with the fake Madara, who was manipulating the Akatsuki and Nagato. "We'll see about that," said Naruto as he started to walk off toward his bed, which was right in front of Madara. At first, Naruto was uneasy sleeping in front of his sensei. He got the feeling that he was being watched, and he was partially right, but eventually he got over his unease and was able to get some rest in form of the mummy. Naruto sheathed his katana back in its sheath, which was right next to his bed, and then he dozed off, not dreaming about anything in particular. Madara was watching his apprentice sleep. These past 2 years had been interesting to say the least. Naruto's potential and power soared when he used the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu in conjunction with his training. Naruto was easily and strength shinobi, where even the 5 Kage would have trouble fighting him, although whether he could fight them all at once was a different thing. And he was quite the ingenious shinobi, where he quickly came up with ways to overcome his weaknesses and flaws, such as that last jutsu he used, Futon, Rasen Shuriken. At first, Naruto was unable to add any of his chakra natures into the Rasengan, as the result would just blow up in his face. He figured a way out around the weakness with clones. However, he could at first only do it with clones, but he said it wasn't practical enough. So he used that Uzumaki blood of his and his imagination to overcome that drawback. He created 2 seals on the palms of his hands that collects his chakra and stores it. Whenever he wanted to form a Rasen Shuriken or a chakra nature enhanced Rasengan, he would just activate the seal and it would convert his chakra into whatever one of his natures he wanted. Not even Madara or anyone else could think up such a diverse way to use seals. Although to form the seals took Naruto some time. Around a year was needed until the seals properly formed, and only then you needed to have precise control of your chakra and be well versed in Fuinjutsu to achieve such a thing. Later, when Naruto had nearly finished his daily training, Zetsu and Madara extracted what little of the Kyuubi's chakra Naruto had in his body. They were able to get a small portion of the Kyuubi's chakra from Naruto's body, resulting in the loss of his whisker marks on his cheeks. However, he still retained his remarkable healing abilities, which pleased Madara to no end. But one thing that surprised Madara were the remaining folders that Zetsu brought to him years ago. He would never have guessed what was in those folders, but it also explained some of Naruto's immense potential. Zetsu appeared before Madara, his Akatsuki cloak quite clear in the dark hovel. "Yes, Zetsu. I have returned with unfortunate news," spoke Zetsu. "I was unable to get the identity of the person who claims to be Madara. In order to find out his identity, I must return to Konohagakure." "I don't see the problem to which you're referring to," asked Madara. He didn't see how hard it was to go in and get information. "The problem is that the top-ranking ninja of the village have seen me on their video surveillance. You don't forget a person like me any day. It's also likely that the Hokage has informed the Jonin of the village about my appearance and infiltration, and they have now stationed their ANBU Black Ops around the village, keeping even greater watch than they did 2 years," explained Zetsu. "Then why don't we just send more white Zetsus?" bit back Madara. "Even though the copies can take on the appearance of others, what's stopping Konoha from discovering that they are not who they say they are? The clones aren't really that strong, and against a ninja village we would need an army," elaborated Zetsu. Madara didn't say anything other than looking away from Zetsu and staring into space. "Do you think he's ready, Zetsu?" asked Madara curiously. He wanted to know if Naruto was ready for the task of capturing Jinchurikis. He had to be sure no matter how powerful Naruto is. Only the strongest could face a Bijou without any qualms or hesitation, and he and Hashirama were among the few. He then complimented the Yondaime Hokage for facing the strongest among the 9. "No doubt in my mind that he is more than ready," spoke Zetsu. "I was wrong about the prediction that the statue would keep supplying me chakra for 3 years, and it's been 2 already," spoke Madara hoarsely. Even with a portion of the Kyuubi's chakra filling the statue, it would not be enough to save Madara. In fact, it was that chakra that had been keeping him alive up until this moment. The jutsu he used to bring Naruto back to life would take the user's life in return for bringing others back to the world of the living. The statue was a massive source of life, and it still wouldn't be able to sway him. However, I only have 3 months left to live before the statue stops feeding me chakra, and until then I will train Naruto even harder, so that he can kill the fake me," informed Madara, even though it sounded strange to say such a thing. "Very well," said Zetsu as he melded with the ground. Nagato, acting through his guise of pain, was watching Amage cure in the tallest tower of the village. "Come on, must the tallest tower in every city be the lair of the villain? Is there some kind of super-villain rule book? Never mind, back to Pain." Pain called out a voice behind the orange-haired man, who didn't move to face the voice, because in his mind there was no need. It was his beautiful partner and oldest friend, Conan. She stared at him with an impassive gaze and neutral face as always, the tragedies of life always making her feel pain. But Nagato knew that was just her way of hiding her pain, for her pain could also be used against her. "Yes, Conan," said Pain without turning to look at her raider. He kept staring out at his village. "We need one more member among the Akatsuki," informed Conan, bringing up a subject that was on Pain's mind. "I am well aware. With Orochimaru's defection from the organization, we do need to fill his place. But we also need to get the Sky Ring from his possession before we allow any other member in the Akatsuki. But finding him is like trying to find a speck of salt on a beach, and if we do find him, he'll most likely escape like the scavenger he has always been. Spoke Pain with contempt as Orochimaru want on his friend list. Zetsu has informed me of a potential candidate, but he has yet to tell me this person's identity, nor his capabilities, or anything else, said Conan, still with that neutral tone of speaking. Zetsu, he always did have an eye for talent, as a few years ago it was him that informed us of Deidara as a potential member, and he was right. If Zetsu is correct about this candidate, then this person might become a potential and powerful recruit. Spoke Pain. Do you think this recruit can be trusted? And even if we do let him into the Akatsuki, will he be able to me? But she was cut off by Pain. Conan, I understand that you have doubts about some of the less savory members of the Akatsuki, such as Sasori and Haiden, spoke Pain. Conan still had her neutral face, but she knew Pain was right since she never approved of the bloodlust of Sasori and Haiden. But we must trust Zetsu's judgment on this matter. Maybe this shinobi may not be as violent like the other members, said Pain in his stoic voice. Tell me, has Zetsu contacted this person? Asked Pain emotionlessly. Zetsu has told me that he has not set up any contact with the candidate, and it will take at least 3 months before he can discern the persons of interest location, notified Conan. And our plans have been set back by a year, in part due to the meddling of the Leaf Village and Jiraiya of the Sannin, continued Conan. Pain didn't seem fazed by this news. In fact, this was good news. They could now be more prepared for the extraction of the Biju. The ripple-eyed man looked up at the falling rain. What is it? Asked Conan, generally curious. The winds of change are almost upon us, said Pain as he looked up at the sky. Soon the world will be one step closer to peace, said Pain. Orochimaru was coughing and wheezing in his bed. Things did not work out as planned. The body he was inhabiting was already rejecting him. He didn't know how it came to be this way. He had 1 more year left, 1 more before he was required to switch bodies again. Sasuke wasn't ready. He wasn't as powerful as he wanted, so his body was off limits, and he couldn't take Kabuto's body. He was just as important. Who else would keep his test subjects alive, and who else could create the medicine for Orochimaru? He coughed again. His form was racked with pain, and he was spitting out blood. He needed to shed his skin again, like a snake. He needed a young, rejuvenating being. He wanted the Sharingan, yes, but he wanted Sasuke at the peak of his power. There was still time, but Orochimaru was blissfully unaware that time was every shinobi's enemy. He just refused to believe it. He heard a knock at the door, and he hailed the person to come in. It was his right-hand man, Kabuto Yakushi, his most trusted and loyal subordinate. He was carrying a tray filled with bottles and herbs and various utensils for creating medical alchemies. I have brought your medicine, Orochimaru-sama, said Kabuto with that suave voice of his which makes this vulgar feeling rise up in me. If Kabuto was likened to any animal, he would be a snake, extremely deceptive and cunning. Give it to me, Kabuto, you fool, hissed Orochimaru. Kabuto handed him a small vial filled with green liquid. He uncorked the bottle and forced it down his throat. The liquid tasted vile, but if it helped Orochimaru's health, he wouldn't care. Orochimaru-sama, you will have to switch bodies soon. Your health is deteriorating every second you wait. Sasuke isn't ready to switch bodies, so you will have to take another, in order to extend your life, assured Kabuto. I suggest taking a body of one of the low-level Chunin under our command. Yes, very good, Kabuto. Tricky as ever. Summon one of the Chunin under the facade of a promotion, and preferably if his body was weak, so that way I can transfer bodies sooner and take over Sasukekin's, commanded Orochimaru. Kabuto left to select one weak Chunin for his master. Soon I will have Sasukekin's body, and not even the Akatsuki can kill me, and I will also have the Mangekyo. Sasukekin, you think you could hide such powerful eyes from me, plotted Orochimaru. It's a good thing he killed the Kyuubi brat all those years ago. It has set the Akatsuki back by a few years and removed a potential thorn from my side. In a dark room, all that was heard was birds chirping, and all that you could see was lightning crackling around. Chidori Senbon, yelled the Sasuke as he fired his new Chidori variation at the archery targets, all of them hitting its mark. There was several other targets around the room. Sasuke activated his Chidori again and shouted, Chidori Nagashi. Lightning started sizzling around the young Uchiha. The lightning struck the targets, destroying them. Sasuke had changed over the 2 years. He was now taller, and his face was more masculine, and he was lean and muscular. He now wore a white long-sleeved shirt which was open at the torso with a small Uchiha crest near the collar. He now has blue cloth that wraps around his waist that is suspended by a purple rope belt that is tied in a bow and black arm guards that went up to his forearms. His personality hadn't changed much since he left Konohagakure. He was still arrogant, and he still had dark thoughts about murdering his brother. I don't know what the girls saw in him, but spending years planning to kill someone is pretty emo. But one thing that had changed was that his arrogance had somehow grown, thanks in part to Orochimaru constantly praising him. He now had a mindset that only a Uchiha can defeat an Uchiha. Guess he didn't pay attention in history class when they were having a lesson on Hashirama Senju defeating Madara Uchiha, dumbass. His thoughts were on how much progress he made in his training. Orochimaru claimed he was about Midgenin level, but Jonin level wasn't good enough. His brother Itachi was an ANBU captain at the age of 13, and yet Sasuke hadn't reached that level yet. I need more power. Even though I have the Mangekyo, my other skills are not on par with that of Itachi's. Then he remembered something. He remembered when he got his Mangekyo and how he got it. In his mind, killing Naruto was justified. He needed the power, and the opportunity had presented itself to him, and he did just what his brother told him to do. He took the life of his best friend. But now Sasuke had little room in his heart for remorse. When he kills his brother, he would restart his clan, and the Uchiha name would be redeemed. It had been 3 months since Madara said he was going to die. He told Naruto the news, but the Uzumaki just took it like he normally would, emotionlessly. He did feel sorry that the man who was the closest thing to family he has ever had was going to die, but he didn't show his sorrow at the thought, but hid it behind a blank facade so not to show the world. Naruto, said Madara. Naruto just stared at him with his active Sharingan, and with that blank look of his, that face seemed to unnerve the white half of Zetsu. Soon I am going to die, in less than a week, spoke Madara. Naruto didn't respond, nor did her physically respond. He was above such weak things such as sorrow and regret. Today you leave the safety of the hovel and go out into the world, said Madara. Your mission is to deploy the infinite Tsukuyomi on the world by gathering the Biju and reviving the Jubi. But before you can begin the Eye of the Moon plan, you need to eliminate the fake Madara that has been manipulating the Akatsuki and my pawn, Nagato, from within the shadows under my own name. And before you revive the Jubi, you have to revive myself by using my previous Rinnegan that has been transplanted into Nagato, since your chakra signature is similar to mine in part to the blood transfusion I gave you all those years ago. You will be able to force Nagato to use the Rinne Tenii no Jutsu to revive me, continued Madara. I understand what I have to do, spoke Naruto darkly and with the utmost confidence and determination, his Sharingan blazing. Very good. Zetsu will be assisting you with everything. He is now your subordinate and will obey any command you give out. Even your own voice will silence Nagato's should Zetsu be ordered by the Akatsuki to do anything. Zetsu is exceptional at infiltration and espionage, spoke Madara, where Zetsu melded from a wall and opening his flytrap appendage. You can count on me, shouted White Zetsu gleefully. The black half seemed to sigh at its white half. But he's fucking weak, hissed Madara at his failed experiment, obviously irked by the clone's blatant rudeness and for interrupting him. Naruto slightly nodded at his teacher, who was right about Zetsu. He is weak. Zetsu deflated a little, but quickly broke from his slight depression and smiled widely, happy and cheery as always. Very well, said Naruto, understanding what was required of him. The blonde watched as Madara disconnected himself from the statue via unplugging the tubes, cutting off his chakra supply that was keeping him alive. Now go, my apprentice, my legacy, my heir, and do not fail me, said Madara, and as his final action, the old man grasped at the sockets of his eyes and pulled out the twin Sharingan from his sockets and grasped them firmly in his hands just before his life passed on, the Shinigami claiming his soul. I won't, sensei, said Naruto. Naruto, after 2 years and 3 months of living in a dark cave, was going to leave. He walked up to a large rock that blocked the exit to the outside world and his own freedom. If Naruto was hesitant about leaving the hovel, then he wouldn't show it. Hesitation was a weakness that didn't have. Naruto activated his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. His Eternal Mangekyo was a cross between Madara's and his own. Its pattern was three sides with the back of the blade having a point on it, but it had Madara's pinwheel pattern that was located in the middle of his eye that surrounded his pupil. Only the colors were inverted. The pinwheel was black instead of red, and the concentric tomo were red, and the pupil instead of its circular shape had a three-pointed shuriken as a pupil. Naruto activated his Susanoo to crush the exit and walk amongst the world. Naruto's was completely white in color, even the fiery aura was white. It had four-clawed arms, its ribcage had horizontal spikes on it, and its skull had a pair of forward-facing bull horns and small spikes on its chin and four ominous glowing yellow eyes and sharp fang-like teeth. The Susanoo raised its fist and smashed the rock that was blocking the way with relative ease using its incredible strength. Naruto, still encased in the Susanoo, called out to his subordinate Zetsu. "Zetsu, get me my armor and weapons," yelled Naruto without looking back at the plant man. Zetsu nodded and went to retrieve the things with utter obedience, like a dog serving its master. Naruto, for the first time in 2 years, saw sunlight. It radiated on him. It was warm and bright and full of hope. Everything Naruto wasn't nor will he ever be again. The Uzumaki deactivated his Susanoo and surveyed his surroundings, glimpsing the world around him. The first thing he noticed was a large skeleton that looked like it belonged to a great beast that died there long ago. And he also noticed that he was in a basin that was dotted with cliffs and rocky areas. Then he sensed Zetsu return with all the things he asked for. The plant man handed him all the necessary clothes that he would use as a ninja. A few minutes later, Naruto was fully dressed in his own signature attire. He wore the same black pants and boots along with the same long, blue belt rope. But now he had black armor on his chest along with black metal pieces of armor on his pecs. The armor did little to hide his killer figure, as you could still see all his rippling muscles move with every twitch. He had pronged black metal shoulder pads and pronged black clawed metal gloves and bracers. And to top it off, he had a black ankle-length, sleeveless coat. The edges of the coat were tattered and frayed with bright red flame motifs on the edges, along with a symbol of a black, curving dragon with sharp claws, a long tongue, a spiked back, and streamlined body surrounded by white on his back. The coat also had a hood and a long collar that held 3 silver magatama by strings. The armor was specifically made for Naruto as a birthday present from Madara. It was made from strong, flexible materials that allowed for protection and comfortable movement that didn't restrict his speed or agility, nor was it uncomfortable in certain parts. The strong wind of the forest were now freely blowing Naruto's hair, his short ponytail whipping in the air and moving as if it had a life of its own. Zesta walked up behind Naruto with a scroll and katana in hand, where he gave them to Naruto and commented, "Very handsome." But the blonde thought that comment would be weird if Zetsu wasn't a clone. "I will head to Konohagakure and see if I can discover the identity of the Madara impersonator. This also gives me the opportunity to infiltrate my father's estate and see if I can get my hands on the Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God Techink, or any of my father's other jutsu. As much as I hate the man, I can't dispute the fact that when it came to jutsu, he was a genius," said Naruto. "Okay, but you have to make a name for yourself. Soon the Akatsuki only accepts rank shinobi, and I have upped those chances by telling them that I found someone to fill the void left by Orochimaru," spoke Zetsu. Naruto visibly scowled at that name. Suffice to say, he wasn't Orochimaru's biggest fan. Naruto nodded at Zetsu's plan. Also, this graveyard could turn out to be a great base of operations. Zetsu have white Zetsus hollow out this basin and create a base where everything I would need to utilize assets would be found, such as sleeping arrangements, armory, medical wing, and maybe add in a library. Also bury the old goat's body and retrieve my eyes from his corpse," commanded Naruto. "I will have to go by a different name. The world believes that Naruto Uzumaki is dead. So how does Ryu Yoke's sound?" said Naruto. He took his katana sheath and placed it on his back. Zetsu didn't say anything, for he was saying the name countless times in his head. "I like it / I like it," said the two halves at the same time. "Goodbye, Ryu," said Zetsu before he melded into the ground. Naruto, now known as Ryu, breathed in before walking to Konoha to the south. No one noticed the small tear on his cheek. That tear meant something to Naruto. Even though Madara and Naruto argued, he still looked up to the man because he was the closest thing he had to a father, and Madara himself knew it. In Konoha, at the main gate, the two eternal gate guards of Konoha, Izumo Kimizuki and Kotetsu Hagane, were playing cards to pass by time. They were easily bored since no one would come to the gate and check into the village, so you have to pity them and find it logical that they were even bored. They have been given this certain post for the last 2 years. Even though the pay was good, it of course came with drawbacks. The only people that came through the gate were civilians, traveling merchants, and the occasional musician, along with some of their own ninja. But today was going to be very different. "Hey Izumo, when is something interesting gonna happen?" whined Kotetsu. "Got any twos?" "Be careful what you wish for, you might just get," replied Izumo with a smirk. "Go fish." "It's just I miss the old days when we would run around chasing Nar." Kotetsu stopped his sentence before he recited the forbidden name of the village. "I know. I miss him too. He always made the village seem like a happier place too, but the damn civilians don't know the difference between a kunai and the scroll it's sealed into. I miss his pranks. I particularly like the one where he painted the Hokage monument in the middle of the day without anybody seeing him, especially with that hideous orange jumpsuit he used to wear," said Izumo. Both men chuckled at the thought of the blonde boy's antics. "Or the time that he painted every major clan's underwear orange," chuckled Kotetsu at the memory of Naruto and his pranks. Their thoughts were soon interrupted when a hooded figure wearing peculiar armor, a black, sleeveless coat, and carrying a katana on his back walked up to the front gate and almost passed the registration booth, completely ignoring the two chunin. "Hey!" shouted Kotetsu in order to get the man's attention. The hooded figure stopped in his stride into the village and looked back at the two gate guards. His hood was shrouding his eyes, and the only parts of his face were his mouth and chin. When Izumo and Kotetsu looked at him, both men could see a man who had the aura of a powerful shinobi. The hooded man looked at them. All he could see were weak shinobi who would fall on their own kunais. "You have to register before you can enter the village," continued Kotetsu. The figure just stared at him blankly, which seemed to unnerve both men as it felt like the void was staring back at them. "Very well," said the figure. He strutted up to the booth and looked at the two chunin before him. "Okay, let me get out the papers, and you can sign the waivers which will allow you free pass into the village," said Izumo as he scratched his head. The figure just shrugged at what the ninja said. "But first we have to ask you your name." "Name?" asked Izumo. "Ryu Yokes," said the figure, but before the two gate guards could do anything, they made the mistake of looking into a pair of Sharingan eyes. A few seconds passed, and the ninjas dropped to the ground with loud thuds. Kotetsu fell on the floor while Izumo's head banged against the desk. Naruto/Ryu checked Izumo's pulse to see if he was dead or alive. Sometimes he could accidentally kill people when using his genjutsu, where they became brain dead. Naruto could feel the even rhythm of Izumo's heart, signifying that he was just unconscious. He knew that ANBU teams are dispatched every 2 hours according to Zetsu's information, so that leaves a limited amount of time to get the information and get out. His father's estate was secondary. Also, he was purposely cloaking his chakra so the barrier core wouldn't detect him, but the Hyuga clan would be a thorn. He'd have to watch out for them. Ryu walked away from the booth and continued on into the village, intent on discovering who his teacher's fake was. Zetsu was right. The village has become lazy in the years of temporary peace. I wonder if the village will fail to function as a hidden village, thought Naruto as he walked through the streets of Konoha. No wonder Orochimaru was able to get in easily and launch an invasion at the same time. As Ryu walked among the people, they didn't see his face because of his black hood, but some glanced at him because of his samurai-like armor and long katana. Naruto didn't care why they were looking at him. All that matters is the fact that his goal was more important. If I was to take a guess where they register ninjas in their ninja log, it would be around the Yinbyu headquarters or the Hokage Tower, mused Ryu. Hokage Tower first, then head to ANBU HQ when I don't find anything. Shouldn't be that hard. He was so caught up in his thoughts that he didn't register the shoulder that bumped into his. He heard a rude shout saying, "Watch it, buddy," from behind him. A few minutes earlier, Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba were walking down the street reminiscing about their recent missions and the exciting things they did. And I was all like Kacho, and Hinata was popping the dudes with her Jukin and Shino. Well, he was just being Shino, said Kiba, excited by wallowing in his own glory. Shikamaru didn't seem to care, and Choji was stuffing his face with chips, again, and he wasn't listening to what Kiba had to say. Troublesome Kiba, why can't you tell a story normally like the writer of this story that we're in? Said Shikamaru lazily and looking up at the sky, probably at me, the writer. His fellow shinobis looked at Shikamaru as if he had lost all his intelligence, which was truly something to behold, as a dumb Shikamaru was hard to imagine. A Shikamaru we're not in a story, spoke Choji as he stopped eating his chips when he heard what Shikamaru said. Screw what Shikamaru said back to, but he was cut off as a shoulder bumped into his own. Now, Naruto stopped his track and turned to who he bumped into when the person rudely addressed him. And he was a little surprised when he glanced at Kiba. Of all the shinobi he had to bump into, it had to be the one covered with fleas and plagued with perverted thoughts. Not to mention Kiba's voice was loud. He liked quiet people, like Zetsu when the plant man was not all hyperactive. Naruto ignored Kiba and kept on walking. He didn't want to deal with people he disliked. Besides, he had something important to do. Besides, he had other problems like finding out about the identity of the fake Madara and taking what was rightfully his. When Ryu started to walk away, that was indeed a move that pissed Kiba off. "Hey!" yelled Kiba at the black-clad mystery person who ignored him and just kept on walking. Kiba, I don't think we should pick a fight with him," said Choji as he was a little intimidated by the samurai-like shinobi, especially that pointy katana he had. "Maybe you should forget about him," suggested Choji. "No, someone's got to teach this prick some lessons in manners," said Kiba as he stomped off after the man. Akamaru, who no one had noticed till now, just paw-palmed his face. His master was always getting into trouble. Maybe the dog should put Kiba on a leash. "Troublesome. Come on, Choji, let's hope he doesn't get into too much trouble or gets himself killed," said Shikamaru as he lazily walked after Kiba with Choji and Akamaru following behind him. Naruto had the Hokage Tower in his sight. Things were going smoothly for him and his mission. He then felt a hand clasp his left shoulder, which also made him stop in the middle of the road, and when he looked back it was Kiba, who was very angry as he was grinding his teeth and his eyebrow was ticking. Thankfully, the hood Naruto had on still overshadowed his eyes so nobody could see his Sharingan. The reason why I didn't turn them off is because he was just far too awesome for that. "Hey guy, I think you should apologize," said Kiba sternly. Ryu couldn't care less, so he was just going to play dumb if that was possible for someone like him. "Apologize for what? Walking on the street," said Naruto. This statement pissed Kiba off some more, and he felt obliged to choke the man for his rudeness, and also his thoughts were on the line of this fucking smartass. "You think you're funny, huh?" said Kiba sarcastically. Ryu just responded with another smartass answer. "No, I think I'm a comedian. I can be quite funny at times," answered Ryu with an annoying smirk. What he said just sent Kiba over the edge, who was barely restraining his anger. Kiba tightened his grip on Naruto's armored shoulder and was digging his claws into the armor, which was barely scratching it. "Listen here, you will AP," but he was cut off as Ryu got out of his grip by spinning to his back, grabbed his right arm, and pinned him to the ground, with his left hand clutching Kiba's skull and his right hand holding Kiba's arm in the air. Everyone that was on the street turned and saw some stranger pinning Kiba on the ground as the Ninkin user was currently eating dirt. "Holy shit, he's fast. I barely saw him move, let alone flinch. Who is this guy?" thought Kiba as all he could see was the dirty ground below him. Shikamaru and Choji arrived along with Akamaru, where the two shinobi and the ninja dog all sighed at the scene in front of them. Shikamaru was right on the money about Kiba getting in trouble. "Troublesome. Mister, could you get off my friend? Whatever he's done, then I formally apologize for it. Troublesome," muttered Shikamaru as this whole situation was troublesome to him. In fact, his whole existence was troublesome. Naruto just looked back at Shikamaru, and he sighed at the shadow user. He let go of Kiba, who scurried off and rejoined his two friends and dog. "Keep your dog on a shorter leash. I have little tolerance for stupidity and ignorance," spat Ryu at the three shinobi. Shikamaru and Choji were taken back by this comment and decided to back down from the fight. Kiba just scowled at his dog comments and growled a little. Unfortunately for him, Naruto heard the growl. Watch it mutt before I neuter you, threatened Naruto while leaking a bit of killer intent, which made everyone on the street sweat a little and take a step back in fear. Naruto restarted his trek back to the Hokage Tower, not looking behind him, not bothered to look behind him. Wait, yelled Shikamaru, which was weird because Shikamaru was never a loud person. Naruto halted in his stride and turned to Shikamaru. What's your name? Asked Shikamaru. Ryu Yokes, said Naruto simply. Deciding he had enough with idiots, Ryu turned his back on the trio of shinobi and continued on his original path towards the Hokage Tower. But Shikamaru narrowed his eyes at him, as if there was something about him that was strange. With the Hokage Tower in sight, Naruto took to the rooftops and he whispered the name of a very useful infiltration jutsu. Maisegakure no Jutsu, hiding with camouflage technique. Naruto disappeared from existence, but in fact made himself invisible to the naked eye. Naruto practiced this jutsu with Black Zetsu, who was an amazing sensor and could detect chakra from even lands as far away as the land of water. This caused Naruto's skill with the jutsu to rival that of Mu, the second Sasuke, where he was utterly invisible except for the extremely small air current distortion that would happen. Ryu snuck into the tower with relative ease, getting past the ANBU easily, who were busy doing what ANBU did best. He traveled the halls of the tower in relative silence, since it was the only thing that could be able to give away his position, since no one could smell him or sense him, see him, but they could touch him. But with his Sharingan it wouldn't be a problem because of his skill, and you'd be lucky just to find him in the air current distortion. However, Naruto couldn't use this jutsu while in combat, so it was designed more for tactical espionage rather than combat. Then he found the door he was looking for, which led him to his objective, the ninja registration log. He opened the door and tried to hold backside of relief since no one was inside. He closed the door behind him and deactivated his invisibility, allowing his form to be viewed. Luckily, there was a computer in the room for processing shit. He sat in the chair and hacked into the account. The password was number-coded with 4 digits, and with his enhanced vision could see the finer prints on the pad, which had barely passable encryption since they didn't protect their information that well. But since this was the least guarded area in the village, it was to be expected. He narrowed the list of results to any Uchiha disappearances over the last 30 years. Based upon the evidence of the Kyuubi attack 15 years ago, this person had the Sharingan to control the Kyuubi. There was no other explanation since Hashirama Senju was dead, and only Nagato could control Bijou with his Rinnegan. But the leader of the Akatsuki was nowhere near the village during the attack, according Zetsu. He narrowed the field of information with Uchiha disappearances. Because of the Uchiha massacre at the hands of Itachi, there was only one person that survived, and that was Sasuke. So if there were any survivors, they weren't in the village at the time. But it turned out all the Uchiha were massacred, well, except Sasuke. But forget about that emo. And this was all the easy. There had only been one real disappearance. Obito Uchiha, said Naruto as he examined the name. He clicked on the profile, and an image of Obito appeared. To Naruto, he looked like an idiot with those goggles of his. But Madara taught him that looks were deceiving, and his sensei was the prime example. Even though Madara was an old goat, he was still powerful. That was what Naruto couldn't dispute about the mummy Sink Yuan. He first started training. He bet the old man could kick his ass back then, but that was different now, since he could have killed the man whenever he wanted at the time. He broke his thoughts over Madara and returned to reading Obito's profile. Died on a mission during the final period of the Third Shinobi World War, trying to rescue teammate Rin Noara, was crushed under a rock avalanche by enemy ninja, but not before giving his Sharingan to Kakashi Hatake. Naruto gritted his teeth at the man, so that was how Kakashi got the Sharingan. And this Obito Uchiha was a student of Minato Namikaze, Naruto's father. Body was never recovered, presumed to be deceased. So Obito is the fake Madara, but still he must have got out of the rock avalanche and later wouldn't return to Konoha afterwards. What kept him away? Then Naruto heard the click of the door behind him. He erased everything that was on the computer and slid back into his invisibility jutsu. He watched silently within the room as the Hokage's secretary, Shizune, came in and started fiddling with the computer and printing out some documents of some random shinobi. Naruto took this opportunity to escape the tower because he now had the time to go to another place. Now with the fake Madara's identity in his hands, he had enough time to break into the Yandame's estate and retrieve his jutsu. At the main gate with the knocked-out Izumo and Kotetsu, an ANBU team was surveying the area when their sights landed on the Chunin. One purple-haired cat masked ANBU gained a tick mark on her forehead because of the supposed laziness of the two ninja. She made her way down and slapped Izumo at the back of the head, yelling, "Wake up." But it didn't work, so she instead started shaking him like a rag doll until he would awaken from his nap. However, nothing the ANBU tried worked as Izumo was still fast asleep. Realizing that something was wrong, the ANBU called out to her teammates. "Assistance!" yelled the ANBU. Her teammates came over to her post-ion and checked over the two shinobi. "They've been knocked out with Jinjutsu," said a bird-masked ANBU with spiky sandy hair as he checked over the unconscious shinobi. "It takes a master at Jinjutsu to do something like this. Whoever did this, their skill in Jinjutsu can rival Kurenai or even Itachi Uchiha. You three will stay here while I report this to the Hokage." Finished the ANBU, and a series of highs was heard before he shunched into the Hokage's office to inform her of what has happened, and he believed they had just been infiltrated by their enemies. Tsunade was sitting in her office as always. Sakura's training had been pleasing. She had already mastered medical ninjutsu and was now advancing particularly well with her amazing strength. There hadn't been any trouble in the village since that plant-like Akatsuki member that was so interested on dead people. She was brought out of her musings when her ANBU agent, Bird, appeared in her office, kneeling in her office. "Hokage-sama, not 5 minutes ago did my team, and I find the two gate guards, Izumo Kamizuki and Kotetsu Hagane, knocked out by Jinjutsu," spoke the bird-masked ANBU. "What?" questioned/bellowed Tsunade as she stood up from her chair and slammed her hands on her desk. "I quickly deduced that they were knocked out less than an hour and a half ago by a master of Jinjutsu. I think it might be Itachi Uchiha," informed the ANBU. Then another boar-masked ANBU agent appeared in the same kneeling position as the other one. "Hokage-sama, someone has broken into the Yandame's Hokage's private estate," informed a boar-masked ANBU. This was giving Tsunade a terrible migraine, all from those few sentences. "Gather all available ANBU units and get me Team Kurenai, Team Asuma, and Kakashi. If an enemy of the village gets their hands on the Hiraition, then it's bad news for us. Go!" roared Tsunade as the ANBU disappeared to confront the intruder. At the Namake's estate, Naruto was making his way down into his father's library, hoping to gather any useful jutsu, but he needed to get one in particular jutsu that was worth a lot in the long run. Breaking into the estate was easy for him. The outer gate was dotted with different ceiling arrays that he was easily able to destroy, thanks to the Uzumaki clan scrolls Zetsu would retrieve from the ruins of Yuzushiobikure. He knew he had alerted the ANBU of the village, so he had to hurry and retrieve what he wanted. And thank the gods, there it was, sitting on a pedestal, the scroll on how to learn the Hiraition. He opened it up and scanned it with his Sharingan, and it was the real deal. How foolish to just leave one of the most powerful jutsus in the world and showcase it like a trophy. Maybe his father was a prideful being. He heard footsteps behind him and a loud halt. He could sense 3 ANBU members waiting to attack him by how their chakra was flaring. No one he knew from his past, so he could kill them without feeling remorse. What was he thinking? He wouldn't feel remorse even if he killed his own friends. He unsealed 3 kunai from his left wrist and charged them with lightning chakra, increasing their speed and cutting power. He threw them at the ANBU, who had little time to react before they dropped dead with holes in their chests. Ryu ran out of the estate and into courtyard as he tucked the Hiraition scroll away. Then he was surrounded by another team of ANBU going through some fast hand signs. Naruto breathed in and yelled, "Katan, Onodoro, Fire Release, Demon Lantern." And him were Fireball, which took the shape of Oni heads where they flew at the team of ANBU with great speed. When they hit their targets, they burned the ANBU members, giving them 4th-degree burns from the heat that bypassed their armor, and they were quickly set aflame from the jutsu. He ran some more and came across teams Kurenai and Asuma, who jumped out in front of him. Then Kiba recognized the man as the guy that bumped into him. "Hey, I know you. You're that guy?" yelled Kiba, pointing at Naruto, and got a bark of approval from his partner Akamaru. This got confused looks from everyone minus Choji and Shiakamaru. So you remember me, you're not as dumb as I first assumed, said Ryu quite harshly, which made Kiba go red in the face and hold out his fist in front of him. Troublesome, muttered Shikamaru as he combed his hair with his hand. I can't use the Rasengan, it would give away my identity, and I have to limit the amount of shadow clones I use. This is so troublesome, thought Naruto, which caused Shikamaru to sneeze. Naruto went through some hand signs faster than anyone could see and channeled chakra into his fingers. Futon, Owakamitsum Taikiatsu no Jutsu, Wind Release, Wolf Claw Cyclone Technique, yelled Naruto as he slashed the air with his left, creating 4 jagged blades of wind that howled like wolves. Everyone there barely got out of the way as the wind blades traveled past them and sawed down 4 trees that were behind them, creating clean-cut chunks of wood. However, Team Kurenai failed to detect 4 other howling blades that were coming at them. Apparently, you can create 8 claws of wind, not 4. The team barely had time to brace themselves for the coming wind, and they were certainly going to die. Doton, Dorihiki, Earth Release, Earth-style wall, yelled a voice. Then an earth wall with 4 bulldog heads popped up in front of Team Kurenai, protecting them from the wind claws. However, the wind-sharpened blades cut deep into the wall. If it wasn't chakra-enhanced earth, then it would have cut clean through. It was a miracle that the wall held its stability, because it was 1 inch away from penetrating. Kakashi appeared before everyone, his Sharingan blazing and holding a kunai in hand ready to battle the combatant. Is everyone all right? Asked Kakashi. Yeah, we're fine, answered Asuma as he jumped next to Kakashi. Okay, what can you tell me about his guy that I don't already know? Inquired Kakashi, and Shikamaru answered. His name is Ryu Yokes. Everyone looked at him with wide eyes, surprised that he even knew the person. Kiba, Choji, and I bumped into him earlier, continued Shikamaru, which made everyone nod their heads in understanding. What we have seen already is that he has a wind and fire affinity. That katana on his back signifies at least expertise in kenjutsu, but other than that we have no idea of his other skills. All of those are correct, however there are a few things that you left out, said Ryu, but he was interrupted as a tree grew behind his back, and its branches coiled itself around him. Damn, I was hoping to not reveal my Sharingan, but it looks like I have to if I want to escape this Jinjutsu, thought Naruto sadly, as if he pitied whoever trapped him in a Jinjutsu. Kurenai then appeared from the trunk of the tree, a kunai in hand, ready to slit Naruto's throat. Megan, Hyo Tinshitan, Demonic Illusion, Mirror Heaven and Earth Change, thought Naruto as he looked into Kurenai's eyes. Now it was Kurenai who was trapped by a tree. But that wasn't what shocked her, it was the fact that the man before her had the Sharingan, whispered Kurenai. Kurenai then found herself back in her own body, and she turned her head to see Hinata funneling her chakra into her, breaking her from the Jinjutsu. But she had to relay this new information. It was vital everyone knew about the new development. Everyone, Jinjutsu doesn't work against him, shouted Kurenai. Why? Shouted Kiba back. Because he has the Sharingan, screeched Kurenai. Everyone was immediately shocked by this. Another Sharingan user. But how all the Uchiha corpses were burned so someone wouldn't be able to transplant the Sharingan into their eyes. So how did this guy have it? And who was he really? The wind seemed to react to everyone's shock as it frayed about more frantically. The chin-length strands that framed the sides of Naruto's face fluttered around, and the strands that fell between his eyes and parted at his nose ruffled a little. His black cloak with flame motifs whipped in the air wildly. Yeah, I have the Sharingan. It was a gift from someone important to me, said Ryu cockily. Oh yeah, and who? Shouted Kiba. Why does it matter? The person is dead, just like you're going to be soon, said Naruto darkly. He went through some hand signs. Raitun, Reiju Hashiri Paku no Jutsu, Lightning Release, Beast Running Pack Technique, bellowed Naruto as he held out the palms of his hands as 10 pale wolves made of lightning rushed at the group of shinobi. Naruto was controlling the wolves thanks to lightning chakra connected to his hands, and he was able to control the wolves and have them attack the group of shinobi. Asuma, in gratitude to his quick thinking, saved the lives of his team and Shino by utilizing a wind jutsu. Futon, Kaze and Gai no Jutsu, Wind Release, Wind Dome Technique, yelled Asuma as a wind dome shielded the 5 shinobi. But the others weren't as lucky. The wolves were sharper than katanas, and they easily clawed past everyone else, causing eviscerating damage to all of them. 5 against 10, including Akamaru. Wasn't a good number. Whenever they dodged, they were attacked by the striding onslaught of the hounds, and the lightning numbed their bodies, causing them to become slower and their reactions to be slower than they were. How could they escape this? If they didn't escape, they would surely die. Ryu was about to finish them off when a shadow above him caused him to look up, and he was blinded by the light of the sun, where a shadow hovering before it could be clearly seen. Sutenkyaku, heavenly foot of pain, yelled the shadow. Naruto canceled his jutsu, and with his Sharingan narrowly dodged the chakra-enhanced falling axe kick that would have probably crushed his skull. Dust instantly filled the area. It was so thick that only a Hyuga's Byakugan could see through it. Naruto was unfazed by the dust stinging his eyes as he just watched the handiwork of someone he used to call Bachan. When the dust cleared, it revealed the silhouette of Tsunade Senju, the Go-Dame Hokage. Naruto would never forget about that monstrous strength anytime soon. But he just smirked. This day turned out to be quite entertaining and made his day all that more interesting. "Who are you? And why did you attack my ninja?" spoke Tsunade with a voice that proved she was worthy of being a leader. Naruto just smirked. Weren't they the ones that attacked him? He couldn't remember. Deciding to use psychological warfare, he knew of the perfect way to get under her skin and make her lose focus. "Is that all you got? A simple strong axe kick," said Ryu, which caused a frown to appear on Tsunade's face. "I understand that in your old age, you're not as strong as you once were, but I didn't know old age had gotten to you this bad. In fact, I think I see a gray hair or two and maybe a few wrinkles," commented Naruto. Every man in the world silently grimaced for their fellow male for making such a stupid comment. Tsunade's eyes were overshadowed by her hair, and flames of righteous female fury were flickering off her form and scorching the ground. Execute him on the spot," thundered Tsunade. Multiple ANBU that were hidden in the trees jumped out and drew their katanas on the samurai like man. Naruto unsheathed his own katana and channeled his wind affinity through it, marker it a lot sharper. The ANBU soldiers didn't stand a chance as their own katanas were cut in half, and they soon joined the weapons as they were cleaved from the chest to their shoulders, their blood staining the grass they were standing on. Those that witnessed it were shocked at the power this man had as he was taking on the Black Ops as if they were Genin, and to add on somewhat the pyre, he had the Sharingan, which made him even more deadly, as he could clearly see their moves clearly. Then Ryu heard the sound of whistling as 2 green blurs attacked him, saying dynamic entry. If it wasn't for the prong bracers that Naruto was wearing, protecting him, he'd probably have some broken bones in his arms, which was in Naruto's mind. Not a good development. Naruto flew back a few meters away, and his feet shaved the ground as he regained his footing. "Well, if it isn't the freak with the large eyebrows and his mini clone," said Ryu scornfully with that annoying smirk of his. This caused Guy and Lee to frown at the nicknames the man gave them. They soon fell into their respective taijutsu stances, ready to combat the man. "Come, Lee, let us fan our flames of youth and show our adversary what it's like to fight taijutsu masters," said Guy. "Oh, and Lee, I'm not sure if anyone has noticed yet, but," said Guy as he whispered in Lee's ear, which was loud enough for everyone to hear, "this man is dangerous." This caused a mass amount of sweat drops to appear on everyone's heads. "Oh, excellent advice, Guy-sensei. I'll write it down," said Lee as he took out a pencil and notebook and started writing down Guy's words. This caused the sweat drops to grow in size. Then Guy socked Lee across the face and shouting, "You idiot. You don't have time to write when you're in the middle of a battle," said Guy proudly and with a glint in his pearly white teeth. Even more excellent advice, I'll write it down," said Lee as he continued writing, not minding that his teacher had hit him. Ryu was watching from his position, slightly amused. If they weren't shinobi, then they would be good clowns in a circus performance. From behind Naruto, a large force of 20 ANBU came rushing towards him. He sealed his katana in his right hand seal and went through some hand signs ending on the tiger sign. Katan, Bakufu Ranbu, fire release, blast wave wild dance, shouted Naruto as he expelled fire from his mouth, creating a massive spiraling fire vortex. The ANBU were trapped within the vortex of intense heat and flames. They had nowhere to go, or they would be burned by the intense holocaust. When Ryu ended his justice, he saw all the destruction he created, only the ashes of the ANBU were left. Using this time to escape, Naruto deactivated his weight seals that were placed on his gloves, boots, and belt. And he took off at breakneck speeds that even amazed Guy and Lee. Naruto was jumping across the buildings and architecture of his home village, intent on leaving as his position was compromised. One more ANBU soldier appeared in front of him with kunai in hand, but Naruto went through some hand seals to quickly silence his life. Raitun, Hekarekurayan Shigekiha, Lightning Release, Thunderline Shockwave, yelled Naruto as he held out his hand as a wave-like vortex made of lightning with the head of a lion in the center hit the ANBU head-on as the unfortunate shinobi was obliterated by the lightning. Ryu continued running out of the village without any interference. My Segekure no Jutsu, thought Naruto as he disappeared while running through the village. The Konoha forces that were chasing after him lost his presence not long after he used his jutsu because of the invisibility it offered him. Tsunade watched as the black-clad man vanished from everyone's sight. The last thing she saw was the symbol on the back of his coat. The image was a battle-ready black dragon, eager to accept any challenge. Kuro Ryu, Black Dragon, she said within her mind as the dragon symbol disappeared along with the person wearing the coat. Tsunade and her forces stopped their pursuit because that had just seemingly lost any trace of the intruder. Umbu, take all the wounded to the hospital and have Asuma and Shikamaru meet me in my office in 10 minutes, commanded Tsunade, and the Yanbu teams shunshined away, taking the wounded to the hospital. 10 minutes later, after Kakashi, Kurenai, Hinata, and Kiba, along with Akamaru, were taken to the hospital to have emergency surgery. Tsunade was in her office, and standing before her were Asuma and Shikamaru, the top two ranking officers that faced the Black Dragon without any injuries. Tell me everything you learned about this Ryu Yokeis when battling with him, ordered Tsunade, and Shikamaru stepped forward ready to answer her. From what we learned from our fight, Hokage-sama, is that Ryu Yokeis has three nature affinities: fire, wind, and lightning, and he displayed immense control over each, said Shikamaru. He also seemed adept at Jinjutsu as he used the Kyo Tenshiden against Kurenai Zenshai with relative ease, but I'm not sure if he did that himself or the Sharingan did it for him. Oh, and yeah, he has the Sharingan, said Shikamaru. But everyone in the room thought he just said he had the Sharingan. Then Asuma stepped forward and he took a drag out of his cigarette. From what I was able to observe, is that he has extraordinary stealth and infiltration skills, as he was able to slip past the ANBU in the village with effortless skill, coupled with the fact that he is a master at Fuinjutsu, as he was able to get into the Yondaime Hokage's estate, which is known for having every kind of defense seal there is. He was also a master at Kenjutsu, as well as the way he wielded that katana had the look of a master with years of experience. We weren't able to see taijutsu skills because we engaged him in long-ranged attacks, but his speed was tremendous as he outran Guy and Lee easily and dodged your chakra-enhanced falling axe kick, informed Asuma, and he used psychological warfare to great effort when he called you old, said Asuma, and Tsunade gained a tick mark, but right now this was not the time to be punching Asuma through a wall, and he's quite the smartass. Tsunade sighed. This man, everything they learned about him, about the dragon, spoke of a man trained in every art of shinobi combat and warfare, a man trained to kill. And what of his physical appearance? Asked Tsunade. We weren't able to get much because he wore a hood that shadowed most of his face, said Shikamaru. But I will tell you what I know. He has light skin, in between tanned and pale and sun-kissed golden blonde hair. Is that it? Asked Tsunade. Yeah, replied Shikamaru. The physical information wasn't much, but it was useful enough. Okay, I will be adding Ryu Yokeis into the bingo book immediately since he was able to kill numerous ANBU and critically injure Kakashi. I will be placing him as a high-ranked shinobi in the bingo book, said Tsunade. Shizun, called Tsunade to her assistant, and Shizun came running into the room with a frantic look on her face. Yes, Tsunade-sama, asked Shizun. Create a profile on everything we have collected on Ryu Yokeis, commanded Tsunade as she folded her arms under her sizable bust. Yes, Tsunade-sama, acknowledged Shizun. Tsunade let her thoughts wander. She was just hoping that Ryu Yokeis didn't acquire what she hoped he didn't acquire. A few days later, Zetsu was reading the latest update on the Konoha's bingo book, but only one shinobi really caught his attention. Name, Ryu Yokeis. Title, Kuro Ryu, Black Dragon. Gender, male. Ninja rank, Srank. Age, unknown. Physical description and clothing, light-skinned and sun-kissed golden hair. Wears black samurai-like armor and a black coat with bright red flame motifs on the tattered edges, along with 6 magatama on the cloak's collar and light blue rope belt. Has a symbol of a black, battle-ready dragon on the back of the cloak. Wanted for mass murder, robbery, failed assassination of a Kage, attempted murder of various Konoha nin. Skills. 3 nature affinities, fire, wind, and lightning. Well-versed in multiple high-ranking ninjutsu and multiple high-ranking unknown ninjutsu. Taijutsu is unknown except for incredibly fast speed. Jinjutsu is a known master of Jinjutsu. Master at Fuinjutsu. Master at stealth assassination and infiltration. Keki Jinkai, Sharingan. Warning, engage with extreme caution. Wanted dead or alive, 90 million Ryo. While Naruto doesn't take long to draw attention to himself, said the white half. Yes, already he has become enshranked shinobi in the bingo books, and his bounty is admirable too. Said the black Zetsu, should we inform Pain that we have found the potential recruit? Said white Zetsu. Yes, although did he have to reveal his Sharingan? It was too soon to reveal his trump card. Complained black Zetsu at the thought of revealing such impertinent information. Pain was looking over Amigakure again, just watching his people go by. Zetsu had yet to find the promising recruit that he would recruit into the Akatsuki, and Nagato's patience was wearing thin. Then Conan walked into the room, her blank gaze on Yahiko's corpse which acted as the main body of Pain. Has Zetsu contacted you about the potential recruit? Asked Pain. Yes, Zetsu has told me of the candidate, and he's even given me the new edition of Konoha's bingo book. On page 9 is our potential recruit, said Conan as she opened the book to the appropriate page. His name is Ryu Yokeis, said Conan, and then she listed down the skills and qualities of Ryu, and Nagato listened intently to what she had to say. Zetsu has the perfect eye for talent, not only that, but he has the Sharingan. He could make the perfect asset. Have Zetsu enlist the aid of Ryu Yokeis immediately. Commanded Pain in his stoic persona, a little eager to meet the ninja known as Yokeis. Very well, said Conan as she walked out the room through the door to meet up with Zetsu. Pain gazed out at Amigakure, contemplating the next move of the Akatsuki. In a few months, they would be hunting the bijou, so to create a weapon that would bring about peace through pain. He finally made it. All that running and walking, and now he was back at the mountain's graveyard. His mission was a success. He found out the identity of the fake Madara, Obito Uchiha, and retrieved the Hiration, while finally testing his power against the shinobi of the leaf, and he was pleased with the results. This was one thrilling day for him. But he knew that his work wasn't finished, it had only just begun. Then Zetsu appeared next to him in his usual manner and said, "Welcome to the Akatsuki / welcome to the Akatsuki," said the two halves at the same time. Naruto smiled to himself, his signature dark, sickly smiles. Now it was time to dispose of the fake Madara and become one step closer to achieving the Eye of the Moon plan. It was all going according to plan. The Akatsuki. Pain was staring out at Amigakure again. His thoughts were upon the new candidate in the Akatsuki, Ryu Yokeis, enshranked shinobi who had recently infiltrated the Hidden Leaf Village. He killed and injured many of Konoha's top shinobi, and almost killed the Hokage, Tsunade Senju. He also had the Sharingan, one of the most powerful Keki Jinkai in the entire world. He may even have the Mangekyo Sharingan. Zetsu was correct in his assumptions of Yokeis. He was a powerful shinobi, although he didn't know which village he hailed from. But it didn't matter as long as he was enshranked shinobi, he was welcome among the Akatsuki. He had told Kakazu not to go after the bounty of Mr. Yokeis, if a shinobi who had 700 million bounty on his head. Kakazu, the Akatsuki treasurer, would stop at nothing to retrieve that money. But then came the problem of his current status within the organization. He had no partner to be paired with, and he lacked one of the rings that linked him to the demonic statue. Orochimaru was in possession of the Sky Ring. Without it, Ryu Yokeis couldn't become a true member of the Akatsuki, and he already had in mind his perfect partner. Despite not meeting the man for himself, he could trust the person with his chosen partner and possibly eliminate a thorn in their side. Tsunade was currently massaging the migraine that was slowly coming at her. Ryu Yokeis had caused quite the stir within the village, especially among the Yanbiyu, Rookie 9, and Team Guy. While now it was Rookie 7 since Sasuke's defection and Naruto's death. She had contacted Jiraiya immediately to discuss the over-successful infiltration. And what she heard and saw of this Yokeis was something that needed to be discussed behind closed doors lest Danzo and the elders get wind of it. But despite all the information she was able to put together, it felt like what Yokeis showed was only the tip of the iceberg of his power, and she had this nagging feeling that Ryu was just toying with all the ninja he fought. There was only one question. Who is Ryu Yokeis? Hopefully Jiraiya had the answer. And speak of the devil, when the old pervert came through her window. "Subheim, you wanted to speak with me," greeted Jiraiya in a happy manner. "Wait, don't tell me. You finally came and want to confess to me that you love me," continued Jiraiya. Tsunade snorted and gained a tick mark at Jiraiya's behavior of the serious matter. "No, that's not what I called you for, Jiraiya," said Tsunade. Jiraiya adopted his serious demeanor. "How is the monkey brat's training?" asked Tsunade. "Who?" "Konohamaru. If you told me that he might be an idiotic genius, I would have spat sake in your face," said Jiraiya. "But seriously, his training has been good, and this is a great way of repaying Sensei by training his grandson. But his current power level would be that of a low Jinin. Give me another year, and he may be low Chunin level," said Jiraiya. Tsunade nodded at this. She remembered when the young Sarutobi barged into her office 2 years ago and demanded that someone train him so that he could avenge Naruto and bring his killer to justice. Flashback. It had been a month since Naruto's death, and Tsunade had been working tirelessly since she took up the god-awful position of Hokage. Konohamaru Sarutobi was an interesting case. From being one of the biggest prank stars in the village, he now became determined to exact justice on Sasuke Uchiha for killing his surrogate brother Naruto. Ebisu, his personal trainer, would come over and tell her of his training and saying how he was glad that the demon brat was gone and that he was not corrupting Konohamaru. Technically, Naruto was helping the kid in his usual way. Tsunade heard this, and he landed in the hospital for 3 months. She was just approving a branked mission when the boy she called Monkey Brat came barging into her office. "Hey, you old hag," yelled Konohamaru. Tsunade reined in her temper, but she did have 2 prominent tick marks on her forehead. There was only one person who was allowed to call her old, and any copycat of that person just pissed her off even more. Konohamaru Sarutobi was definitely a second Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, because that was the blonde's true name. "Yes, Monkey Brat," answered Tsunade with Konohamaru's nickname. She was busy. She had no time to be dealing with this. "I need a new sensei since you're the one that put the closet pervert, Ebisu, in the hospital," said Konohamaru while pointing his finger at Tsunade. Then an opportunity hit her like bricks. "Well, there happens to be a certain shinobi that can take you on as his apprentice," said Tsunade with a glint in her eye. "Yahoo!" asked Konohamaru. If this guy was a better teacher than Ebisu, then he would not use the sexy jutsu again. "You can find him at the hot springs, can't miss him," said Tsunade. Konohamaru walked out of the office and went on his way to the hot springs. Flashback end. Jiraiya took Konohamaru on a training trip, thereby killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The hot springs were safe from the world's biggest pervert, and she got an annoying brat out of her hair. "Tsunade, back to the real reason why you called me back to the village," said Jiraiya. Tsunade was about to answer when the very people she didn't want to see walked into her office. Danzo and her personal advisors. "Hokage-sama, we need to talk," said Koharu Udatane. "Just great, as if I had enough to deal with," thought Tsunade. "We received reports that the village had been infiltrated again," said Danzo. In his mind, Danzo didn't believe that Tsunade was competent enough to be Hokage, like her predecessor Hiruzen. The Sandaime should have given Danzo custody of the QB container the moment the beast was sealed, and he should have given the last Uchiha as well to undergo emotional training and become a tool of the village loyal to him. "Yes, that's why I called Jiraiya here as well," said Tsunade. "Wait, Heim." Someone snuck into the village? Inquired Jiraiya. Tsunade nodded at him and began to elaborate. 1 week ago, an assailant penetrated the defenses of the Leaf. His name was Ryu Yokes. Started Tsunade. He was able to pass by the detection barrier and knocked out 2 Chunin stationed at the main gate of the village, and yet he wandered around the village as if he was a citizen. We are currently unaware if he had an ulterior motive, but he was after what we believe is the Hiraishin no Jutsu of the Yondaime Hokage, informed Tsunade. And was he able to get the Yondaime's jutsu? Asked Danzo. We believe so, but we don't know. No one has been inside the Yondaime's estate ever since the Kyuubi attack 15 years ago, and the only person that was allowed in was the Yondaime's stated heir, replied Tsunade. But the Yondaime had no heir, Tsunade. What you are spouting is nonsense and flawed information, spat Danzo. The old Warhawk had been trying for years to get the Hiraishin for his root program, but Sarutobi always denied him, and he couldn't get into the estate to begin with. Then you obviously don't remember the hospital incident 2 years ago, when a member of the Akatsuki ran a blood test at the hospital, said Jiraiya. That was Naruto's blood. They were scanning it since he was Minato's heir. Impossible, screeched Koharu. There is no possible way that the demon brat is the son of the Yondaime. Jiraiya pointed his finger to the picture of the Yondaime hanging up on the wall. The elders saw it, the resemblance between Naruto and the Yondaime, but they refused to believe all the evidence that was in front of them. You can't dispute all the evidence, and we also have a birth certificate, and we can always show the recording from 2 years ago, said Jiraiya. The elders had to accept the fact that Naruto was the Yondaime's son. In Minato's will it stated that Naruto would inherit everything from his father when he turned 18, including the Hiraishin, and if any of Naruto's children, should he have any, would receive the same benefit. Continued Jiraiya. But since Naruto is dead, there is no one to claim the inheritance. It is just void at the moment. Finished the toad Sannin. Then you should give me the inheritance. I can put everything within the Yondaime's library to use, suggested Danzo. This was his last chance to get his hands on the Yondaime's signature jutsu. No, said Tsunade. Danzo scowled at the Showdaime's granddaughter. In the will, it was never mentioned that any of the Yondaime's jutsu would go to the village, so the estate and all its contents will be just an old ruin. But let's get back to the original reason why I called Jiraiya here and not you three, spoke Tsunade as she glared at the elders. Ryu Yokes was able to sneak into the village, kill multiple ANBU, and injure several clan heirs and top jonin. We are unsure if he was contracted to do this or he was here on his own free will, but what we did discover was, but she interrupted by Jiraiya. Wait, Heim, who is this Ryu Yokes? Queried Jiraiya. I thought you would have some information on this person, said Tsunade. Sorry, Heim, never heard of the guy before, answered Jiraiya. So could you update this guy on me? Ryu Yokes is a now wanted Shrank ninja. His background is unknown. His age is unknown. We didn't see any scratched out headband or any headband signaling ninja allegiance, and he didn't use any skills that samurai are known to use. As a person, he is a complete unknown, but we were able to get a few things on him when he attacked our shinobi. You should look it up in the bingo book, notified Swanda. He accessed the village and killed several high-ranking ANBU, and quite possibly has the Hiraishin, continued Tsunade. It's like this person fell out of the sky. He is just a complete mystery. This is bad, Heim. We need to be careful around this Ryu Yokes, warned Jiraiya. Yokes also has the Sharingan, informed Tsunade. Jiraiya was acting like a gaping fish. How could this person possess the Sharingan? Only 3 people in the world possess that Keki Genkai, which is Itachi, his brother Sasuke, and a transplanted one in Kakashi. What should we do about Yokes? Asked Jiraiya, getting over his shock quickly. I don't know. This man is a ghost. He disappeared as soon as he had appeared, and then we lost all traces of his presence. We had the Inuzuka try to find him with his scent, but it was lost as soon as he vanished, and the Hyuga clan were unable to find him within the village. Probably by then he had already escaped. But if we do see him, we capture him and find out any information and intelligence he may have. And if we cannot, we kill him and burn his corpse, said Tsunade. But while this was happening, Danzo, as usual, was plotting something. He was thinking that if he could persuade this Mr. Yokes to join the Leaf and serve under him as a root agent, then he could gain a powerful asset if what he heard of what Yokes could do. Pain was watching over AIM. Ryu Yokeis had received his invitation into the Akatsuki. It had been a week and Pain had yet to receive his answer. Zetsu materialized from the floor, only his torso was visible. Leader Sama, Ryu Yokeis has entered AIM. He has officially agreed to join the Akatsuki, said Zetsu. Pain never showed any emotion, but he was pleased that Ryu had accepted the invitation. Very good, Zetsu. I will summon the other Akatsuki members in order to introduce him and await his partner, spoke Pain. In fact, I'm happy that Yokeis joined us. I want to see what he's like. Naruto, now going by the alias of Ryu, was walking through the village hidden in the rain, his face stoic and emotionless. He didn't turn his head to look at anything except for the path he was wailing on. His coat's hood was down because he didn't need to hide his face from the population of AIM, though he still had his Sharingan active. But something strange was happening to him. Out of the corners of eyes, and thanks to the increased vision of the Sharingan, he could see several women stripping him with his eyes, and they were giggling amongst themselves and blushing. Naruto hadn't had interaction with the females of his species for over 2 years, and he had little social interaction besides Zetsu and Madara. The women's eyes were either directed at his face, which led him to the conclusion that he was handsome, and a few days ago, he did notice a change in his face. It was now more angular, and his eye shape was more narrow like his father's, but still round, and most like the chin-length strands of hair on the sides of his face, and the nose-length strands that fell between his eyes may have accentuated his overall attractiveness. Their eyes were also directed at his muscles, which he noted were lean and rippling. He knew that all the physical workouts Madara made him do likely had a part to play with this. And his armor did little to hide all the muscle he had, such as his chest and biceps. Or they were directed at his crotch, where women both teenage and other ages blushed furiously, and later they had chronic nosebleeds, and money women were taken to AIM's hospital to treat blood loss. To Naruto, this all seemed weird, and yet he had an amusing feeling inside of him. He just couldn't explain, but it made him chuckle. When he was invited to the Akatsuki, he received a letter hand delivered to him by Zetsu explaining to come to the tallest tower in the hidden ring. That's where he supposed the leader of the Akatsuki stayed. He already had the pleasure of meeting to other Akatsuki members. Itachi Uchiha, Sasuke's older brother, and Kisame Hashigaki, the Kirigakure no Kaijin, monster of the hidden mist. He hadn't met any other members, but he was sure that some, if not most, were freaks, because most strength shinobi were freaks. But he was wondering who he would be partnered up with. He had a million guesses going through his head. He just hoped it was someone quiet and not a freak. He would have arguments over which one was better or which ideal is correct. He didn't have the time nor the patience for that. Then he had Pain's tower in his sight. It really was the tallest tower in the village. It easily dwarfed all the other skyscraper-like towers, and it was quite interesting in Naruto's opinion. It had 4 faces on each side of the tower with multiple pipes and tubes sticking out of each of Ti's faces. Naruto could barely make out a silhouette on the tongue of one of the faces, but he shrugged it off and continued onwards. He reached the base of the tower and found a chain-link fence surrounding it. He jumped over the fence and walked up to a door on the side of the tower. When he opened the door, he was met with stairs, lots of stairs. He groaned a little and starting his trek up the tower. Zetsu was waiting next to Pain along with Konan, waiting for Ryu to arrive. Konan was a little anxious. She had no idea what this Yokeis person would be like. What if he enjoyed killing like Sasori and Haiden? What if he was psychotic like Kisame and Kakazu? She just hoped he didn't have a stupid obsession for art or money. Pain didn't care what Ryu was like. As long as he served his ultimate goal, then nothing mattered. Zetsu. He was just Zetsu. Nobody knew what he was thinking except for Naruto, but he would only be half right. They heard footsteps coming from the door behind them and the small sound of armor clanking a little. White Zetsu smiled. Naruto would have a hard time getting adjusted to being with a partner, but he knew that all these years training would have to amount to something. So this would be interesting to say the least. Black Zetsu couldn't smile, but he was in a way excited for Ryu's reaction to working with a partner. The door opened, and the trio saw a man clad in black. He had black leather armor that hugged his form quite nicely. He had black prong pauldrons on his shoulders, and black prong bracers, and black clawed gloves. His boots were unique, for he had silver claws on the toes and sharp spurs on the back of the heel. He wore a light blue rope belt with the ends of the belt hanging between his crotch and right leg. and ending down below the knee. He also had a black sleeveless coat with the edges tattered along with bright red flame motifs on the edges and had the kanji for Kuro Ryu, Black Dragon. On the back, the coat also had a hood and a long collar with 6 silver magatama on each collar. He also had a long katana held by a sheath on his back with a light blue rope on the hilt that was 23 inches. His face was narrowed and he had golden spiky hair that ended in a low ponytail. He also had chin-length strands of golden hair that framed the sides of his face and nose-length strands that fell between the eyes and parted at his nose. He had narrowed eyes that were slightly rounded with a pair of blood-red Sharingan in each eye. Overall, the man was extremely handsome. If he wasn't a shinobi, he'd be a great male model. Conan found herself blushing a little when her eyes traveled downward towards his man package, and in her opinion, he was quite big. Both Zetsu and Pain didn't notice the stain of pink on her cheeks. Pain turned around and faced Ryu, and his first thoughts on the man was a man who carried himself with confidence and pride in his power, but the blonde hair he never pictured in his mind. "Welcome, Ryu Yokais, to the Akatsuki and Amage Cure," greeted Pain. Ryu didn't physically register what Pain had said, but his eyes spoke the truth. Conan stepped forward and handed him an Akatsuki cloak. Naruto was taken back by the sheer beauty of this woman. She had a perfect heart-shaped face with stunning blue hair, with some tied in a bun with a blue origami flower. She had in-shading amber eyes and unique piercing under her lip, and he could tell she had a killer body underneath her cloak. Magnificent was the word he would use to describe her. He took the cloak in his hand. It was the usual thing, black with red clouds. Ryu took the cloak off Conan's hands, but he never noticed his gloved hand touch hers momentarily where a spark seemed to set off between the two. Conan blushed a little while Naruto hid his expression. Years under tutelage of Madara allowed him to control his emotions quite well. Naruto slipped the cloak over his body and readjusted his katana sheath. The cloak fit him perfectly, and you could still see his ankle-length coat. "Now, Ryu, I will be teaching you a jutsu that will allow us to communicate with the rest of the Akatsuki," explained Pain. "You only require the ram seal, and you only say the jutsu's name." Everyone in the room used the ram hand sign and then focused their chakra. Pain didn't have to tell him the name of the jutsu because Naruto could read lips thanks to the Sharingan. "Jinshin no Jutsu, Magic Lantern Body Technique," chanted everyone in the room. They then found themselves in a dark cave-like room with a burning lantern in the middle. Naruto noticed that his body had an astral rainbow look, and the only thing that didn't appear like a rainbow was his eyes and the red clouds on his cloak. He also noticed that Pain, Zetsu, and the unknown blue-haired woman, unknown to him, were also with him. Then 6 other astral bodies appeared. 4 of these bodies he didn't recognize, but 2 he recognized even with the celestial bodies blocking their appearance: Itachi and Kisame. Then all eyes turned towards the leader. Zetsu had told Naruto earlier on that he should refer to Pain as Leader Sama, but why he had no idea. Even Itachi fell in line with Pain, and the Uchiha prodigy was incredibly strong. He was one of the strongest Uchiha to come out of the clan, excluding Madara and his brother Izuna. And the other rank criminals among him bowed down to their leader. "Welcome. I have gathered you all here to welcome the newest member of the Akatsuki," said Pain. Everyone in the room except Conan and Zetsu turned to their newest arrival. The ones who had the biggest reaction to the new member were Deidara and Itachi. Deidara sputtered around. This guy had the eyes he hated the most, Sharingan. He would always remember the humiliating defeat Itachi gave him before he joined the organization. Itachi's reaction were raised eyebrows, which was the most you would get out of him. But the thoughts going through his head were, why does this man have the Sharingan? Is he an Uchiha? "This is Ryu Yokais," continued Pain. He was about to say something, but he was cut off by Kakazu. "I've heard of you, Kuro Ryu, Black Dragon. Quite the bounty on your head and all the shit you've done," said Kakazu. "It's too bad I can't kill you yet. I would have loved all that money." Now Kakazu. He might be a fellow follower of Jushinsama," said Haiden. "So tell Mr. Yokais, do you follow the laws of Jushinsama?" "Who?" said Ryu with his usual blank face. Haiden face faulted at what Naruto said. "Is that some kind of wandering clown who uses his hands as feet and feet as hands and can't tell the difference between his arse and head?" continued Ryu. Now Haiden was pissed. This blasphemer was insulting his god, And to top it off, he had an annoying smirk that spoke. I'm superior to you. The Jashinist looked ready to kill someone. Kakazu just smirked. He was liking this guy already. Itachi's face twitched a little, finding the situation funny. Kisame laughed. You couldn't see Sasori's face. Deidara was chuckling a little, and Conan had a small smile. Hey, dare you, you blasphemer. Haiden took out his three-pointed scythe and aimed at Ryu. Maybe I should offer you up to Jashinsama, said Haiden. Sorry, I don't swing that way, and I don't like clowns, baited Naruto with the signature annoying smirk. Smoke was fuming out of Haiden's ears. How he would love nothing than to punch that grin of his face. Kakazu started laughing along with Sasori. Deidara and Itachi was chuckling a little. Conan let loose a few giggles. Now threaten me again, and I will stab your eyes with needles, and have you relive what you fear most. Threatened Ryu, leaking a bit of killing intent. Haiden was frozen in fear, and since he couldn't die, so Ryu must have been serious. Kisame grinned a sickly grin. Itachi was emotionless. Sasori was chuckling from seeing Haiden's reaction. Deidara whistled, and Kakazu was smirking at the mental image he was able to conjure up. But there was still some questions that needed to be answered. Hey, tell me something, Ryu, my man. How do you have those infernal eyes? Asked Deidara. Even though he hated the Sharingan, he liked Ryu despite only knowing him for a few minutes. They were a gift, answered Naruto. You asked how I have these eyes, not who or when I got them, so no? More questions about my Keki Genkai, threatened Ryu darkly. Deidara seemed to shrink in size at the piercing glare he was getting from Ryu. He made a mental note not to piss him off. May I ask, Ryu? Said Sasori, gaining Naruto's attention. What do you think of art? Asked Sasori. Before Naruto could answer, he was cut off by Deidara. Why would Ryu, my man, be interested in your art, Saori, my man? Protested Deidara. True art is a spur of the moment, watching it dazzle the sky, and in a bang it is gone. That is true art. I don't think I asked you on what your poultry version of art is. Deidara, spoke Sasori. Besides, true art is eternal beauty, making it last forever, preserving it through the ages. That is the only way art can be appreciated. Ryu coughed, gaining the two bickering artists' attention. My version of art? Is that what you said? What was it, Sasori? Asked Ryu. Yes, what is your art? Asked Saori. Ryu contemplated this for a while. He never really thought of anything outside training and his ultimate goal. He then looked over at Conan, and he truly found his answer. Art is enjoying one's passion in the company of another. This kind of art is temporary, but it's far more enjoyable and pleasurable, answered Naruto. Deidara and Sasori were intrigued, so was everyone else in the room, especially Conan. Good. Since we have introduced each other, it's time for missions that the Akatsuki have been contracted to undertake. I will relay these missions later. Spoke Pain. He turned to Yokais. Ryu, I am aware that you lack a partner within the organization, so you will be paired with Conan. Said Pain. Conan widened her eyes at this because she never expected to be separated from Nagato. Ryu didn't really care. So long as they could work together, he had no qualms. Your first mission as a partners will be to retrieve Orochimaru's Akatsuki ring. Assassinating him is secondary and only when the opportunity presents itself. Continued Pain. Nagato knew of Ryu's skills as a master of stealth. If he was able to sneak into Konohagakure, then Orochimaru's base wouldn't be that hard. Now go. Naruto then found himself back at the dreary tower again. He saw Zetsu standing around being Zetsu. I will try to find Orochimaru's base. All I know is that it is hidden near Kusagakure. Goodbye, said Zetsu as he shifted within the ground. Ryu looked over to Conan and saw her fidget around uncomfortably. She wasn't expecting this. Conan had mixed feelings at the moment. She knew why Pain teamed her up with Ryu, but she felt a little uncomfortable around him. But she didn't want to be separated from Nagato. Then her mind caught up with her, and she put on her neutral demeanor. I will meet you at the entrance to the village in half an hour, spoke Conan. Ryu nodded and left the tower, heading for the entrance. He was at the gate of the village, and there wasn't anyone around, until Zetsu appeared. You got quite a good catch, Naruto, teased White Zetsu. I mean, she's hot, like amazingly. White Zetsu would have continued if it wasn't for the deathly glare he got from the Sharingan-wielding blonde. He hated when Zetsu was like this. White Zetsu, said Naruto. The white half shivered a little at the glare he was receiving. How do you picture your death? Asked Ryu. Stuttered Zetsu. Do you want me to choose your death for you? Asked Naruto as he put on a curious expression. I'm pretty sure that can be arranged. White Zetsu cowered while the black half was chuckling. Naruto just made the white half a little bitch just by looking at him. I will try and find Orochimaru's exact location near Kusagakure. However, it will take 3 days before that happens, said the black half as the plant thing sinked into the ground. A few minutes later, Ryu saw Konan wailing over to him with a conical straw hat with tassels hanging down and a small bell held by a red string. She was also wearing one. Here, she said as she presented the straw hat to him. He took it from her hands and placed it on his head. It was quite comfortable. Thank you, said Ryu. Konan blushed a little but quickly forced it down. They both began to walk towards Kusagakure, which geographically wasn't very far. They walked for a few hours in silence, agonizing silence. So Ryu decided to start up a conversation. So have you ever met Orochimaru in person? Asked Ryu, and he knew it was a bad question. Konan never expected Ryu to talk to her anytime soon, but she decided to answer. No, I have never met Orochimaru in person, answered Konan, and I don't particularly want to either. Naruto didn't say anything because there was no point in wondering why. There is an inn 25 kilometers from our position. We should rest there for the night. Do you agree? Said Ryu. I do agree. We won't be able to follow the path in Zetsu's directions during the night, she said. Naruto never expected her to be so cooperative. He thought she was going to make his life difficult by overriding his authority and her always taking the lead and listening to her. This was amusing to him, but he mistakenly let a chuckle escape his lips, something which Konan heard. Something amusing? She asked/stated. I find it amusing that you are not what I expected you to be, replied Ryu. Konan raised her eyebrow at the blonde in confusion. And what did you expect me to be? She queried. She was interested in knowing what he thought. I expected a strong, confident woman, and yes, she truly is what I expected. Konan blushed at the compliments aimed at her. But I also expected a woman who would override my authority or follow her own lead, and only she chooses the decisions in. Example, what road we should take. Konan didn't know if she should frown or scowl. They now had the inn within their sight. They opened the door, and they heard a bell ring. There was a middle-aged woman behind a desk. She had dark brown hair and brown eyes. Welcome to the Sleeping Lamb, greeted the woman. Ryu removed his hat and held it within his hand. The woman at the counter blushed heavily. Was this guy a male model? But his eyes were a little strange. Konan walked up next to him and also removed her hat. We require rooms for the night, and food as well will be good, said Konan neutrally. The woman turned her attention to her and nodded, but also gave off a hint of jealousy. Are these two together? Very well. It just so happens we have a few free rooms, she said. Now will that be one queen-sized bed or king-sized? She asked. When Naruto and Konan heard, both blushed until Naruto decided. No, we are just colleagues. That will be to queen-sized beds, and that's all, stuttered the Ryu, clearly flustered. Konan still had her blush and was trying to force it down. The receptionist nodded and handed a key to a room. It's too bad you two are not together. You'd look like quite the cute couple along with your matching clothes, continued the woman. Konan blushed even more. Yes, she was physically attracted to Ryu, but that was it. Naruto was a lot better at controlling his flustered state and forced down a blush that was starting to appear. Thank you for the room, said Naruto, and was reminded that there was a phone for room service. The two walked around the large inn and found their rooms. It was room 69 foot. It had to be that number, thought Konan. She was annoyed thinking that Yosuke and her were together. Naruto just looked at the number as if it was a number. Being cooped up in a dark cave had caused him to become disconnected from a few things. They walked in and saw 2 beds, queen-sized beds, a coffee table surrounded by chairs, a small bathroom, and a small kitchen. And by the door was the telephone used for room service. Are you hungry? Asked Ryu. Konan looked at him for a second and was about to say something before the growl of her stomach cut he off. I'll take that as a yes. He took the phone and let it ring for a while. Then a voice answered. Yes, I would like to have some food. Konan heard a bit of gibberish. You wouldn't happen to have ramen? She heard even more gibberish. The Naruto turned to her. What do you want? Konan hesitated for a second, but her hunger was more important at the moment. Do they have flame-broiled fish? She asked. Do you have flame-broiled fish? said Ryu into the phone. Yes, that would be all. He put the phone down and sat on one of the beds. The food will be here in half an hour. Conan sat down on the opposite bed. I think we should get to know each other, said Ryu out of the blue. Conan looked at him curiously. I want us to be able to work together. We don't have to like each, but understanding each other's fighting style, and among other things will encourage teamwork, and not get us killed at the same time. Explained Naruto. I will start first. I use all combat ranges ranging from long to close quarters combat. Though I prefer close quarters, I am very ninjutsu heavy, and sometimes I use jinjutsu. I like to mock my opponents so they can lose focus and make mistakes, and I prey upon those mistakes and finish them off my opponents. Conan was perplexed that he was willingly giving her information about him. She sighed knowing that he was correct. I am a ranged combatant which will aid you because of your preferable being close quarters combat. I am able to turn my body into paper and hardening them with my chakra to become tougher than steel. I am able to form weapons from those paper sheets as well, and I can suffocate people and slice them to pieces with said paper. And because the paper is infused with chakra, fire jutsus will hardly work against me, and water ninjutsu will have a similar effect. Disclosed Conan. Very good. If you want to get to know me on a personal level then, just ask, said Naruto emotionlessly. Conan wasn't sure if she should ask. Other than Nagato, she hardly knew anyone in the Akatsuki. The only other member she liked was Itachi, and they have hardly spoken to each other. Later their food arrived, and they ate in silence. Naruto woke up the next day early. He looked over at Conan, who was still wearing her cloak, sleeping on the bed. He got up and created 10 shadow clones, and ordered them to learn the Hiraishin that he inherited from his father. He knew that he couldn't learn such an advanced and powerful jutsu in a few days, even with Shadow's clones and the Sharingan. It would take him a few weeks or a couple of months depending upon the difficulty of the jutsu. So the original Naruto meditated for a few hours. Even with the healing rate he had acquired from the Kyuubi, he still needed to meditate so he could sort out the memories of his clones. Conan woke up and the first thing she noticed was Ryu Yokkei's meditating on his bed. His chest armor was off, allowing Conan to see his great muscles. And she also noticed that his low ponytail fell between his shoulder blades and was thin but not too thick. That was something she never noticed. And somehow he didn't have a single scar on his body. Wait, no. Adjusting her eyes to the light, Conan saw what appeared to be a point of contact for a lightning bolt, which struck him over his heart, and its appearance was grisly to say the least. She had 1 or 2 scars on her body, but they were small and hard to locate. And still she never expected Yokkei's to have blonde hair. She originally pegged him as a black. Deciding to use this time of meditation to her advantage, she subtly walked into the bathroom and stripped down naked. She peeked through the door to see Ryu still sitting there, unmoving. She turned on the shower and gracefully stepped in and started washing herself, but made sure to remove or origami flower and Akatsuki ring. Her ring was white in color and had the kanji for white by on it. After she was down, Conan dried herself off with a towel, and she put all her clothes back on. She left the bathroom to find Zetsu and Ryu conversing with each other. They looked back at her. We have found Orochimaru's hideout, stated Naruto. Now Conan was interested. Our primary objective was to collect his ring, and killing him a secondary objective. His base is 17 kilometers southwest from our position hidden within the ground. This will make getting into his lair all that much more difficult. Do we even know where the door to his hideout is? Asked Conan, but this time it was Zetsu who answered. The door is surrounded by trees, and it's a metal hole in the ground. It's just like what Ryu said, it's 17 kilometers southwest from here, spoke Zetsu. With that in mind, Zetsu melded into the ground. Both Naruto and Conan were ready to depart. But Conan remembered to pay the receptionist, something that never came to mind for Ryu. Both walked towards their destination. There was little need to run. Then Conan remembered what Ryu said about getting to know each other and work cohesively as partners. Ryu, what do you like? Asked Conan. Ryu was caught off guard by this question. He couldn't remember what it was that he liked. I like training and expanding my arsenal as a shinobi and fighting strong opponents, replied Naruto. While it was progress in character development, she expected him to brush off the question. And what do you dislike? She continued. He did say that if she wanted to know him as a person, she would just have to ask. I dislike idiots, arrogant people, ignorance, and snakes," spoke Ryu, though Conan would never know that what he meant by snakes was actually Orochimaru. "Then I get the feeling that you won't like Orochimaru," said Conan, and she received a nod of confirmation from Ryu. They now saw the metal hole in the ground where Zetsu told them Orochimaru could be found. "Well, this is it," said Ryu, though Conan didn't notice his Sharingan spinning rapidly. "Shikigami no Mai," thought Conan. Then her entire body was folding into paper and then turning into paper butterflies. Naruto just watched unsurprised. She would have to get the paper from somewhere. "My Segakure no Jutsu," thought Naruto. His form then turned invisible, and both Akatsuki members dived into the hole, one invisible and the other thousands of paper butterflies. They were now in a dark corridor alit with burning candles. "We should inform each other if we find Orochimaru's ring or Orochimaru himself. We need to find a way to signal each other," whispered the invisible Naruto to paper butterflies. Then one of the butterflies became a paper aeroplane. Understanding, Ryu nodded his head. Conan had a way of contacting him, but not the other way around. He then unsealed a paintbrush and chakra ink, and started drawing a seal on the paper aeroplane. "This seal will heat up when I channel my chakra into it, letting you know that I have the ring," whispered Ryu. The aeroplane seemed to fly around him. Apparently, Conan couldn't speak in paper form. Both went their separate ways in search of the ring. They searched numerous rooms, finding them empty. "I mean, why would you have so many rooms if you weren't going to use them?" Naruto made sure to pull up his hood on his coat. Orochimaru had seen him before, and they might recognize him even with the loss of his whisker marks. Even though Kabuto and Orochimaru couldn't see them, Sasuke could wit his Sharingan, and any other dojutsu user like Neji. He opened a door, and there was nothing but a barren room. He opened another, except this time it wasn't empty. By a desk in the room was someone he hated. Kabuto Yakushi, the pet of Orochimaru, was fiddling with some medical salves. Then Naruto remembered something. Pain never ordered him to not kill the snake's puppets. Naruto drew his katana from its sheath on his back, slowly and without a sound. He walked up to Kabuto at normal pace. If he went slow, it would increase his reaction time, and his body may be too fast for his mind to handle. He was now right behind Kabuto. He held his katana in a reverse grip and held it with both hands, ready to strike at the traitorous Leaf Nin's skull. He was about to administer the finishing blow before Kabuto turned around and started walking out the room. Naruto didn't have much time to get out of the way of Kabuto's path, but lucky his blade was 5 millimeters away from touching Kabuto. Luckily, his Sharingan and Madara's training helped him out a lot, and he was able to divert his body away from Kabuto's. He watched as Yakushi slinked away from the desk to who knows where. Ryu sheathed his katana and walked out of the room. He kept searching and searching, but there was no sign of Orochimaru's ring, but he knew the traitorous Sannin was here, because if Kabuto was here, then the serpent wasn't far behind. He opened another room and came upon a ghastly sight. There were innocent people locked behind bars, and they looked skinny and malnourished. Naruto could even see some children among them. The old Naruto would have gone to any length to free these people, no matter the cost, even his own life. But the real Naruto wasn't like that. He dropped his invisibility and made himself known to the prisoners. Most, if not all, looked relieved to see him. "Please, sir, save us," said a man trying to reach for Ryu's cloak, but instead grabbed his boot. He only just noticed the foot coming down on his hand, and with an audible crack, the man's hand was broken beneath Naruto's heel. The man cried, and Naruto didn't silence his cries. The other caged people were looking at Naruto with anxiety. Then Ryu went through some hand seals and ended on the tiger sign. "Aren't you going to save us, mister?" said a small girl with tears in her eyes. "No," stated Naruto. "Katan, Enden, fire release, flame bullet," said Ryu as he spat out a large flame bullet at the imprisoned people, their screams of pain reverberating through the base. Because Orochimaru experimented on people, these screams wouldn't draw anyone to him. Naruto watched the burning flesh of the innocent people, a small smile on his face. He envisioned the ignorant people of Konoha and all who had harmed or ignored him, and it felt good killing them. But yet he had set them free. How? Their suffering at the hands of Orochimaru must have been terrible, and they were to be used again and again for human experimentation and torture. They would have wanted to die afterwards. Ryu activated his invisibility and walked out of the burning room. He walked around inspecting the rooms. Then he came upon an extremely large room, and there in the center was someone Ryu wanted to kill the most just to settle the score with. Sasuke Uchiha. The young Uchiha was practicing with his own sort of Kusanagi. His movements were fast and precise. Obviously had a good Kenjutsu teacher. Must have been Orochimaru, since the Snake Man fawns over the kid. Ryu was just watching the Uchiha with a scrutinizing eye. He could sense that he had improved much over the past 2 years, but the former Jinchuriki wanted to know how much. Then Naruto saw Sasuke do a Chidori variation, which was clever, improving upon the jutsu that killed him. Then Sasuke turned his sight towards the door. He could see someone shrouded in chakra, thanks to Sharingan. "I know you're there," stated Sasuke. Naruto wasn't surprised, and it seemed to still kept his arrogant attitude. Naruto deactivated his invisibility, letting Sasuke see his Akatsuki cloak plain as day. Sasuke wasn't expecting that, but kept his expression devoid of emotion, as always. Thoughts were going through his head. Akatsuki is a group of strength shinobi like Itachi. When I defeat him, it will prove that I'm ready to kill Itachi, thought Sasuke. He also noticed that the Akatsuki member was wearing a hood shrouding most of his face. "I wasn't expecting the Akatsuki, to be honest," said Sasuke to Ryu. Ryu smirked. "By testing out my skills on you, then I will be ready for Itachi by killing you." Naruto chuckled. "When you compare Itachi to Madara, you would know that Itachi, despite all his power, is no match for the ancient Uchiha. Itachi is dirt to compare to Madara. And now Sasuke thinks he's ready to take on a shinobi who could rival Madara. That's completely laughable." Sasuke heard this chuckle and decided to make a point. "Why are you chuckling? You should be cowering before me, because only a Uchiha can defeat an Uchiha," spoke Sasuke with that arrogant voice of his. Naruto just chuckled some more. "Then you obviously don't remember all the losses that were handed to your clan by the Senju," spoke Ryu with that all-might smirk. Sasuke had enough and engaged Naruto in taijutsu by using the Uchiha signature Interceptor Fist. But Naruto just dodged or blocked his attacks, as if they were slow to him. But the strange thing was he didn't attack back. Sasuke prepared his strongest punch aimed at Ryu's head. But to his utter shock, Ryu caught his punch effortlessly. Sasuke jumped back and went through hand signs. "Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, Fire Release, Great Fireball Technique," shouted Sasuke as he blew out a fireball the size of a horse at Ryu. But to his shock, yet again Ryu cut through the fireball with his wind-enhanced katana. "Is that all you've got?" taunted Ryu. "You killed the Kyuubi's container. I expected better. Where's your Uchiha superiority?" Sasuke was angered over this and drew his own sword. They both clashed. Sasuke wasn't able to get even a scratch on the guy. He just parried or strafed away from his attacks. Sasuke channeled his lightning chakra into his sword, increasing its cutting power. But Ryu just channeled his own wind chakra into his katana. The lightning-enhanced sword did little against the wind sword. Sasuke was fuming. Everything he did against the man did little to nothing. He was supposed to be an Uchiha and elite, but yet this nobody was toying with him. "Stop toying around," he yelled. He aimed to slash at Ryu, but was met with air. He just vanished. "Behind you," whispered a voice. It was Ryu with his back against his. "You know, this fight, if you could call it that, has been rather disappointing," informed Ryu. "I expected better from Itachi's younger brother," baited Ryu. And it worked like a charm. Sasuke was furious, so he attempted to spin around and face Ryu. Instead, Naruto elbowed Sasuke in the head, almost knocking him out. Sasuke keeled under the force of the elbow. It felt like a brick hitting his face. "It's too bad after all that training. If you can't defeat me, how can you hope to defeat Itachi?" whispered Ryu in Sasuke's ear. He grabbed Sasuke by the back of his collar and held him in the air. "You're not the only one who has the Sharingan," said Naruto as Sasuke looked into his eyes. "Weak. You're still so weak. If you can't kill a member of the Akatsuki, then you can't kill Itachi." Naruto chucked Sasuke a good distance away. But the Uchiha was wondering how this nobody had the Sharingan. "I've gone easy on you, but remember, train harder," said Ryu with that smirk. Sasuke watched the Akatsuki member walk away from him. "Wait," shouted Sasuke. Naruto turned his attention to him. "Who are you?" asked Sasuke wearily. "Ryu Yokes," said Naruto. I wonder how much bullshit can be avoided if I kill him right now, thought Naruto. But instead he knocked Sasuke out with his Sharingan-induced Jinjutsu. Naruto walked around the base some more when he caught sight of a paper aeroplane with a small seal on it. The paper flew around him a bit. "Do you have the ring?" asked Ryu. The aeroplane nodded. Naruto was about to leave the underground hideout when he felt a presence behind him. Well, well, it looks like the Akatsuki have finally tracked me down," spoke a sickly sweet voice. Naruto turned around and came face to face to the man he hated most. "Orochimaru," said Ryu blankly. Orochimaru knew from first glance that this man was new to the Akatsuki. "Tell me, are you new to the Akatsuki, and if so, what is your name?" asked Orochimaru with a frown. For if there was one thing he hated more than his home village, it was his former Akatsuki colleagues he worked with. "Yes, I am new to the organization and my name is Ryu Yokais," said Naruto as he allowed Orochimaru to glimpse his eyes. Orochimaru gasped, seeing a pair of Sharingan that didn't belong to Itachi or Sasuke. "Well, too bad," spoke Orochimaru sadly. "I would love nothing more than to take your eyes for myself, and I can tell that you are stronger than Sasuke and Kako. However, I don't think you will leave this place relatively unharmed." "Sanaijishu, hidden shadow snake hands," yelled Orochimaru as snakes shot out of his sleeve and at Ryu. Naruto took out his katana and sliced apart the snakes. However, when he looked up, the snake's senin was gone. He deduced that the jutsu he used was only a diversion. He then took a step as a long blade shot out from under him and speared the roof above. Naruto channeled his lightning chakra into his katana and stabbed the ground where the blade came from. Orochimaru used the hiding like a mole no jutsu, hiding like a mole technique, to disappear into the ground and attack with his snake sword. Orochimaru dodged the lightning blade that and jumped out from behind Ryu, but not before spitting out the snake that connected the sword. Ryu went through the hand seals and prepared a jutsu Raitun, Reikyu Tai, lightning release, lightning orb. Naruto collected lightning chakra in the palm of his hand. It had a dark blue sphere around it with a small black ball with flickering lightning sparking off it. Naruto threw it at Orochimaru where a bright light of lightning ensued. The result, a large chunk of the building's structure was vaporized and took the shape of a ball. There was some leftover lightning flickering around. Ryu was about to walk away, his objective complete, but he heard dark chuckling form behind him. Orochimaru burst from the ground and expanded his mouth into inhuman lengths. Madara no Jin, formation of 10,000 snakes, thought Orochimaru as thousands of snakes slithered out of his mouth and were heading directly at Ryu. Each snake opened its mouth, and the blade of sword served as replacements for their tongues. Naruto did the only thing logical. He ran. He ran for a few minutes with the bladed snakes following after him. Then he remembered something. "Why can't I just use that jutsu?" thought Ryu. He stopped and faced the snakes head-on. The snakes then landed on top of him, presumably piercing his body. Orochimaru smirked. That was one member of the Akatsuki taken care of. But he frowned when he saw a white skeletal being with 4 arms, 4 glowing yellow eyes, and 2 forward-facing bull horns. Now Orochimaru felt fear. What? What is that?" he yelled within his mind. And Naruto answered him as if reading his mind. "This, Orochimaru, is the perfect defense." Orochimaru was sweating. This thing in front of him was hellish in appearance, and it literally struck fear into him. "The Susanoo, and now I will finish what Itachi started," said Ryu. His Susanoo then started to form numerous white magatama in between its hands, which were attached by a string of chakra, and threw them at Orochimaru, like shuriken. Fortunately for Orochimaru, he was barely able to dodge the shuriken like projectiles, but he didn't notice that they created an explosive collision with the interior walls of the hall. Ryu, seeing his attack wasn't working, decided to change his attack pattern. He started going through some hand signs. Since he was in an enclosed area, he would have to lessen the size and destruction of the jutsu. Futon, Ryu Kisoku no Jutsu, Wind Release, Dragon Breath Technique. Yelled Ryu. He blew out the head of a Japanese dragon the size of his body, which flew at Orochimaru. Don't get confused between the Koryu Kisoku no Jutsu. This is just a weaker version. Naruto then channeled a large amount of chakra into his right eye and whispered Amaterasu. The wind dragon head was then set ablaze with black flames. Now it was cutting and shredding along with burning and scorching. Inten, Kinryu Kisoku no Jutsu, Blaze Release, Blazing Dragon Breath Technique. Orochimaru didn't have enough time before he was consumed in the tearing and incinerating dragon head. The hall was then alit with black flames, and the walls had deep scar-like marks. Ryu deactivated his Susanoo, which was still active. He looked at his handiwork, the blazing hall burning the walls. Objective completed. And finally, he started walking away and back to the entrance of the hideout. Orochimaru's body was burning and bleeding terribly. He had underestimated the new Akatsuki member greatly. And those jutsus, the Susanoo and the Blaze Release combination with the wind, were magnificent. But he had bigger problems than thinking about that. Ignoring all the pain that was screaming at his body from the fire and the throbbing deep cuts all over his body, Orochimaru widened his jaw like a snake, and a pair of pale hands opened up like a serpent shedding its skin. The new Orochimaru escaped from his previous skin before the black flames could engulf. He no longer had any wounds, but the amount of chakra coupled with his wounds forced him to use a lot more than he expected. He was now panting heavily and coughing. Ryu Yoke's was now at the top of his hit list. Naruto was walking back to the entrance of the hideout. He was wondering if he really killed Orochimaru, but if so, it wasn't important. He found Konan waiting for him at the entrance holding a ring between her fingers. She offered him the ring, in which she received a thank you in return. I heard the sounds of fighting within the halls. Orochimaru? She asked. Yes, I fought him. Not sure if I killed him. The man's like a cockroach. No matter how many times you flush them down the drain, they always happen to find their way back. Spoke Ryu. Konan nodded her head at his assertion. You could never tell with Orochimaru. They exited the hideout and started walking back to the hidden rain, where they would receive their next orders. Naruto was mulling over his fight, with which was one-sided from his point of view. That was the first time he tried a combination with Blaze Release, and the results pleased him greatly. He should have to try out more combinations with his Eternal Mangekyo, but with Wind Jutsu for the added devastation and power. But then a thought came to him. One of his goals among the Akatsuki. Eliminating the fake Madara. Pain wouldn't believe him, not since he just joined. Even with Zetsu backing up his claim, and he knew that the fake only operated through Nagato. He would have to establish himself within the ranks and possibly have Konan join him, since her word among the establishment would outweigh his own. Thinking about getting Konan to join him was the easy part. Getting her to actually join him was a far more difficult thing. He also sensed that Nagato and Konan were close. They were not lovers, but great friends, he believed. And Nagato was more likely to believe her than Zetsu any day, but he also needed proof that Madara was not Madara. But conspiracies such as these would take time. So now was a good time to enact his plan. Konan, what do you like? Asked Naruto with his hood down. Konan blinked. Why was he asking such a question? What do you mean? She asked. Well, since you wanted to get to know me better, I wish to extend the same courtesy, said Ryu, seeing no problem with it since she did the same thing. Konan answered. Well, I like origami and flower pressing along with helping pain, answered the Akatsuki member. Now Naruto knew why she loved origami, since her ninjutsu style was centered upon paper, but the flower pressing was new to him. But helping Nagato was no surprise. She seemed adamantly loyal to him, loyalty he could exploit. And what do you dislike? Continued Ryu. I dislike feeling useless and watching friends die, she replied. These dislikes were ultimately fueling Naruto to have Konan as an ally on his side. I see those are very admirable and gorgeous qualities you have, said Naruto. Konan blushed at his compliment. She never expected such reaction out of him. She was sure he'd be disgusted by her hobbies. And being called gorgeous wasn't helping her fight her blush. It would take another day to reach Amigakure, and his sun was going down at their fastest speeds. They wouldn't make it to the village, and they passed by the inn they were at a few days earlier, so they had to camp out during the night in the forest. Unfortunately, neither of them bothered to pack a camp, so they had to make do with sticks and twigs for a fire and the ground as beds. Naruto wasn't bothered by the cold. Living in a dark, cold hovel for 2 years helped him out greatly. But Konan was a different story. She had tried to get to sleep, but the cold wind scratching her face was preventing her from doing so. She then felt something warm against her back. When she touched it with her hand, she felt clothing and firm muscles against it. "Don't worry," said Ryu out loud. His body was pressed up against her. It was to her an intimate and compromising position. "I saw you shivering, so I helped out." "I didn't ask you to help me," bit back Conan. Naruto still had the expressionless face of his. "Doesn't matter. You were cold, and now you're warm," reassured Ryu. "Fine," relented Conan. She dozed off to sleep in the comfort of the blonde. When Conan woke up, she was shocked to find Ryu and herself in his arms. Their faces were a few centimeters apart, and his bosom was pressed up against him and her hands were on his chest. She looked at his face. It was calm and serene, but at the same time it looked similar to his usual expression. Her face turned a deep shade of scarlet, and she tried to ease herself out of his arms, but that only helped in making his grip on her stronger and resulted in pulling her face into his chest with his chin above her forehead. She knew that the only way to get out of his embrace was to wake him up, but the warmth he was generating from his core was quite soothing to her, and a part of her wanted to stay a little longer in his arms. She squirmed in his arms a little, but she looked back up to see a pair of Sharingans staring at her. To say she was intimidated a little was correct. Naruto let her out of his embrace and got up off the ground. "Did you sleep well?" questioned Ryu. Conan nodded her head at this. She didn't notice the red stain that adorned her partner's cheeks. "We should continue on to Amigakure." He was stopped by Conan, who held out her hand, which had Orochimaru's former ring in it. "Take it, it's yours now," she urged. The ring was slate blue in color and had the kanji 4 sky, Kon, in the middle. Naruto took the ring from Conan's hand and placed it on his armored right index finger. They then began their journey back to Amigakure. They were now at Amigakure and were walking to the tallest tower. Conan used her signature paper jutsu and turned into paper butterflies and flew across the village, while Ryu used his invisibility jutsu and walked to the tower. They found Pain in his usual place, staring at the village. "Were you successful?" said Pain as he turned towards Naruto. Ryu showed him the ring on his finger. "Is Orochimaru dead?" "I'm not sure. Orochimaru has a habit of escaping death," stated Ryu. "It doesn't matter as long as you have the ring," said Pain. "Zetsu has informed me of your cooperation and the success of your assignment. Therefore, I have decided to make you 2 permanent partners." Conan was a little saddened by this. Naruto just inwardly smirked. Nagato was making his plans easier for him. Conan got over her bout of sadness and held her neutral expression. It was easier for everyone if she cooperated. "I will contact the Akatsuki and tell them the news of a new confirmed member," said Pain as he did the hand sign for the Jinshin no Jutsu, magic lantern body technique. Both Naruto and Conan did the necessary hand seal, and they found themselves back in the same dark room with the burning lantern in the middle. Then astral images of the other Akatsuki members became visible. "Ryu Yokeis is now a full member of the Akatsuki," informed Pain. Kisame smirked. He liked Ryu. Deidara Oswell, he respected Yokeis' version of art. You couldn't see Sasori's expression. Kakaza grinned. He liked Ryu a lot since he caused so much trouble for Haiden. Itachi was unreadable, and Haiden fumed. He was hoping Orochimaru would kill the prick. "And he will be partnered with Conan permanently," said Pain. "Now within a year we will begin the capture and extraction of the Biju, and 2 years from then we will capture the Kyubi. Until we begin our true operation within a year, we will be gaining funds for the Akatsuki." All the members nodded at this. "I will relay the missions and assignments, and if I cannot, Zetsu will." Then the astral bodies started disappearing. Naruto and Conan were brought back to their original positions. They spared each other glances. Red met Amber, and Amber met Red. They both walked out of the room and gathered any necessities they would need for any of their traveling. Then Pain approached them. "We have received various missions from Kirigakure, from the Mizukage herself. I will send you 2 there to complete any missions that require your capabilities and attention." "Very well, Leader Sama," said Ryu. He sealed some things into his seals on his wrist and made sure to check if he missed anything. Naruto had never been to the Land of Water. He wanted to see how the country differed from the Land of Fires, and he wanted to meet the Mizukage, whose beauty is said to rival Tsunade's. He wanted to see if those rumors were true. He strapped his katana to his back, dusted off his cloak, and he and Conan left Amigakure behind, heading towards the Land of Water and Kirigakure. Who knows, maybe there would be some unexpected surprises there.